proud, I'm American, arrogant, throwing fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting the fool, this embarrassing is flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us, and y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Try to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That's church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, cannot describe it. Used to describe it as a young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. Hit every bar, even though my bar's been the hardest. The scars on my face said I ain't always been the smartest, but I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeves, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people, I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson, I'm a bison, a beast. I'm hot like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant, tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retrofit. It gets so lit, I guess so, bitch, now let's go.
I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will...
What's going on, everybody? It is Tuesday, April 25th. It's draft week. Got a surprise guest in the house. Got my man Cam. What's going on, Cam?
It's going well, man. It is draft week. It feels like we've been moving at like a million miles an hour. Yeah, but the fact that it's like we're finally at draft week it's crazy. And then not to mention, we finally got resolution to the thing we've been expecting for a month now. So,
I don't know about you, Cam. I listen to a lot of Rich Eisen.
Yeah.
And he's talked about it for a long time. Obviously, he's a Jets fan.
Yeah.
So obviously it's kind of point of view for him like every day.
Right.
And every day he was talking about, don't worry, guys, it's going to get done. It might not be now, but it'll be the summer. It'll be training camp. Like, we're going to get this done. And he didn't want Aaron Rodgers to begin with, but he did, basically just like, I think this is going to get done. Relax. We'll get it done. The timing was good. I think that worked. I think it worked out for both teams.
I mean, deadline always spurs action, right? And so like when you have like draft week, and you have teams that are wanting to know their certain draft position, like they want to know, so it's certainly one that I think, I would bear to say that about 31, if not 32 teams are very happy to finally see this resolution, knowing it's done. So,
because technically, I mean, if you were the rumors about the 49ers or the rumors about Tennessee wanting to jump in and hey, if the deal's not getting done, we're open. So that's a good one. Actually, I'll have to post that up. Caleb will be joining us shortly. His house has no internet right now, so he is driving to my house. So he will be here.
To be fair, if you did kick him out, you're literally replacing a Huskers fan with another Huskers fan. So you're really not like missing anything, really.
What you're saying is I've chosen poorly in the people I hang out with. I try to choose things wisely, and sometimes we make mistakes. We can't choose the people we like. We can't.
Yeah. But no, it's funny with the Rodgers stuff because it's like I think there was like even though it was probably one that like we all knew it was going to happen, especially when it came from the word of mouth, which was Aaron Rodgers, that he intends to play for the Jets.
Right.
And the fact that it took so long, I think that like I feel like there was still probably like a part of us selfishly that were like, is this really going to go down? Because the fact it took so long, right? So like, it's one that's just like, man. So it's one that you're like, man, is this thing really going to happen? And then it finally happened on the week that we all expected, which was, of course, draft week.
What's so funny is, and this comes back being a Bronco guy, obviously, we would have given them last year. We would have given them the world for Aaron Rodgers, and
theoretically, you could say we did. We just never traded for him.
So I think the Packers lost out on an opportunity to get him off the books a year earlier, see what Jordan Love could do a year earlier, and then would have gotten a whole lot more in return.
I would argue, though, if that was the case and they wanted to get rid of Aaron Rodgers, this is the thing I truly don't understand, though, is why did they sign him to that big, massive contract extension? That's kind of like the thing that's like the biggest like surprise out of all of this, because it's like, okay, if you've now traded him, obviously it's the Jets' problem now, but it's just like,
the Jets converted his
there's going to
salary
be
to bonus. It's only going to count $15 million against the cap. Now they have $45 million in cap space. Like,
but yeah, it's just one that's just but it's still one of those deals. Like, if you were kind of like that kind of in between to begin with, like, I mean, why didn't you, or why did you sign the deal? So,
right.
I think it would be funny though, like, and we'll do the draft, and everything, but I think it would be hilarious if the New York Jets drafted a quarterback with their new first round pick, just in spite, like for pure comedy with Aaron Rodgers, and just draft a quarterback. Like if Will Levis falls to 13, I'm not saying he will in our draft because, we don't know. But like say Will Levis, falls, in the draft to 13, and they obviously have Zach Wilson, but like it would be so funny for pure comedy if they just drafted a quarterback and then they pan over to, Aaron Rodgers' face and you just see the sheer serious look that he has on his face, like, oh, not this again.
Well, and I think the Jets will save them from themselves because I think they're going to ride Zach Wilson can get better train.
Well, so I think that's like this fun little avenue with Zach Wilson. That's like, yeah, he didn't play great last year, but I think that the Zach Wilson stuff is enough of an avenue, though, where because he was drafted so high, there were some people that still viewed him as a project. He's a very talented quarterback, but yeah, like, so it's certainly one that's like, if they wanted to still be in the dreams of having Wilson work out, I think it would be great for them to still hold on to Wilson and have him learn under Rodgers, because who knows truly what that window will be, right? Because I would say, like, ideally, your window with Rodgers is probably 2 years. Like, that's kind of like ideal.
Is Wilson, this will be his third season?
I want to say it's like it's his third season.
Yeah, third season. So technically, they have him, they'd have to offer him that fifth-year option, almost not seeing him play on the field for those next 2 years. That's a tough thing to do.
But I mean, like, stylistically, the way he is off platform, the way he can throw, really, there's no other quarterback that you would have almost teaching you, than Aaron Rodgers.
We had Clayton ask about who got the better deal, the Packers or the Jets. I just think it's a fair deal altogether. Like, a lot of people saying the Jets got fleeced. I don't think they did. The caveat to that is how long does Aaron Rodgers want to play? That's the caveat.
Yeah. And obviously there's the other part, which I think is if, so it's theoretically 2 first-round picks because, like, that one that turns into a second-round pick.
Right.
It could literally turn into a first, barring if Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps or something like, or whatever it was.
65. You're right.
Yeah, and so so I don't know. Obviously 60 to 65 or 60 to 65 is pretty generous. Like it's one that's like, it's certainly one where you're like, okay, that is probably going to end up getting, boosted right up to a first round pick. So they probably will have that
which that first round pick, if all things go well, should be in the 20s anyways.
Should
is the hoping, right?
Should. But everything's a not everything's a given, and we as Bronco fans should know that. Like nothing's ever a given, right? Obviously, Caleb's not here, but like I personally still don't think the Russell Wilson deal was as much giving up than people are giving him credit for, or even saying. But even the Rodgers deal, I don't think was, say, as much. I think initially you're probably thinking, oh wow, this is a lot. But like, no, it wasn't as much as really kind of when you truly look at it.
You look at it, they're just swapping picks in the first round this year. The Jets already got a second pick for trading Elijah Moore. So the Packers are getting that pick. And then they get that second possible first next year. Like, that's really not that much, which for a guy that you just don't know how long he's going to play, like you don't want to give up the farm for that. So,
well, and ideally, I would say ideally, if you are, wanting to give up a first round pick, and I think that was like the biggest hesitation for the Packers and for, right, is that like they didn't want to give up a first round pick. If you're within that 13 and 15 range for the first round, that's, obviously there's the points, the draft points system, if you will, but like, but yeah, so still you're looking at it from, it's still 2 slots. So you're still moving up 2 slots, you're moving down 2 slots. So it's like it's not that bad. Like it's truly not that bad of a move.
And to get, the Jets were in a position that they couldn't go into the season with Zach Wilson again, and they were probably too low in the draft to get a good quarterback. Winston. Oh, dogs are going crazy.
Yeah. Oh man. Look. So yeah. Look, it sounds like dogs are going crazy. It seems like maybe Caleb here is going to be, joining pretty soon. But yeah, Clayton, you did ask about, Jordan Love. I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does, because obviously people have been making a huge deal about Matt LaFleur, down there in Green Bay. And I do wonder if, like, with, this is probably going to be one of those things like that is going to like make or break LaFleur's legacy, if you will, with Green Bay. Because I think a lot of people were making it so that like LaFleur was being carried, if you will, by Aaron Rodgers, right? And Rodgers was on the decline near like the end of his career, and so on and so forth. If you will, and if you want to make that kind of argument, like Rodgers was a little bit on the decline. But I think that we got a cat appearance on with Binky. But I think it would be interesting is like if, for instance, like something does happen where Love plays really well and he works to the strengths of what LaFleur can certainly see for a long season. I think you will see a lot of people still clamoring with this idea that Matt LaFleur is a really good coach, and I think that So I think that this is going to be one of those moves. And it isn't just a general manager decision, obviously, because those are the kinds of decisions that can get you fired. But it was also one for a head coach that like this could easily make or break you. If they truly can't make it work with Jordan Love, but they can also decide to move on from him. But still they really haven't seen enough of Jordan Love to make that decision and make that call.
Got to see him play. Got to see him play. I'm not high on him. I wasn't high on him at Utah State. I kind of saw a lot of, I mean, Zach Wilson, like you see some plays, you're like, wow, okay, that's some good stuff. But then like multiple plays after that, there's just no consistency in his game. So,
yeah. And that's the thing is like, we fall for the tools all the time, but it's really just about, can these kinds of guys like truly, turn into a Caleb?
What's that?
How you doing, buddy?
Better now. Better now. This was a shit show that I had to do, so I'm excited to be here.
I'm kind of digging your echo. So like whenever you whenever you talk and you make like a really profound statement, Caleb, it's gonna echo. So I kind of like it.
Through Pinky's computer and then mine. So
yeah, are we too close together? Is that what's going on?
I don't know. Do I need to go sit over there? Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. It's gonna be an interesting evening.
So, but you doing good, Caleb?
Yeah. We're all right.
You're here so you don't get fined.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So where are we at? It's so late.
We're talking about Aaron Rodgers, the trade. So basically just kind of like, recapping, the trade basically, and then going and talking about, maybe Jordan Love. Clayton talked about, what to expect with Jordan Love. Is it something that we can maybe see a good side of him? He did struggle, but also there were those flashes still. So what about you?
I agree with the Love. There was some struggles, but I saw enough flashes that I think he'll be just fine. Christian Watson had some of his longest receptions with Love playing last year, so I don't think they're going to struggle any more than they did last year.
Yeah, I think that's also like a underrated thing. Like, and this is also like a fantasy perspective, because it's like, you certainly want to take a guy like a Christian Watson in fantasy, but it's like, will not having Aaron Rodgers like affect a kind of like, that kind, and it isn't just fantasy, but it's also like in the season, like how is it going to affect like guys like this? Like, how's it going to affect a Christian Watson? How's it going to affect a Romeo Dobbs? How is it going to affect Samori Torre if he cracks the rotation? Like, how is it going to affect these guys, or even some of the newer guys that they decide to add to the roster? So it's like, it's going to be really interesting, because like Watson, the moment like he literally touched the football, whether it was Jordan Love or whether it was with Aaron Rodgers, he was quite literally a touchdown magnet.
Agreed. What did you feel about the Rodgers trade? Fill me in before I give you my 2 cents.
So, I mean, it was bound to happen, right? And I said earlier, it was like one, I think in the back of your mind, you're kind of thinking, well, is this going to fall through? Because it was taking so long, like, right? Because it was taking so long. And so is, and so it's one that like, is it going to happen? But, I think over the course of when it went on, you kind of saw the draft as being like that deadline for this thing coming together. And then when you saw the way it was unfolding and the way that they were able to we talked about it, swap first round picks, it kind of seemed like an ideal trade for both.
I can see where it would be considered an even trade. I still think the Jets overpaid. Now, I know I'm in the minority, but I think they held all the cards. There was zero chance the Packers were going to pay him to sit on the sideline and do nothing. But if you want him there for the offseason workouts, you're going to have to bring him in earlier. You're going to have to pay more than maybe you wanted to. But I agree. Swapping first-round picks, swapping a fifth and a sixth, those are negligible. So it really comes down to next year's second, which can turn into a first depending on play time, which I don't see why it won't be a first next year. But at the same time, if Jets succeed the way they expect to, then it's going to be a late first. So they didn't give up a ton, but I still think a third would have been more than fair from the Jets.
Yeah, and we even kind of mentioned it just briefly before you hopped on, but it's like there's also that point where Rodgers legitimately is on the decline, and I think one of the biggest wins of this, like, is the fact that they're at least showing the possibility. Not saying it's going to happen because this draft could change things, next draft could change things, but the fact that they were able to hold on to Zach Wilson now, I think is at least enough that, like, if they wanted to ideally keep Zach Wilson and have him learn under a guy like Aaron Rodgers, I think that would be beneficial for him because we know, and we touched on it, like his play style for Zach Wilson and his off-platform throws and stuff like that. That's a nice little mirror for him with a guy like an Aaron Rodgers, to where, like, if he wants to learn truly how to play the game and play at that, conservative / aggressive style that Aaron Rodgers always played with, it's an ideal fit, I think, for Wilson to not just grow, say, with the New York Jets, but maybe his next stop.
I agree that it can be a growing opportunity for Wilson. Question is how much pride is he willing to swallow to make that happen? I would love to hear why you think Rodgers is on the decline, because I don't see any of that. Broken finger last year, poor offensive scheme and weapons for a majority of the season. I didn't see a decline. I saw a down year.
Yeah, I don't agree with Caleb often, but this one we do agree on.
Well, I see both sides. I'm just saying, I see both sides. Like, because Father Time always catches up with us. I mean, now granted, it finally caught up to the 85-year-old Tom Brady, before he chose to retire. And so, but I mean, like, it's gonna catch up eventually. And it was a really bad year, and admittedly, even with Russell Wilson, like, it was a really down year for all three of those guys: Tom Brady,
right,
Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson. Like, it was a weird down year for all of them. But also, there's a very legitimate argument that Aaron Rodgers needed Nathaniel Hackett, right? And the fact that, like, Nathaniel Hackett was not there, probably played a big deal because, probably one more time again, he didn't practice, right? He didn't practice, with the team. And when you are trying to kind of learn a new system, if you will, or kind of like learn some new players, that's not really ideal, right? And that's not really ideal. And so that can definitely strain on you with the chemistry of, wide receivers, your players, that kind of thing. So I certainly see both sides of it, to where, like, I can definitely see him going on the decline because of what we saw last year, but I would not put it past it to where we see, the Rodgers of old, if you will, or the Rodgers of what we've seen, especially with some of the weapons that they now have of, Alan Lazard and Garrett Wilson and, some of these other players, CJ Uzama, who's not talked about enough with the Jets, but, like, these kinds of players. And obviously, if they're Breece Hall's healthy, like, they have some pretty decent weapons. And of course, Robert Saleh to hit that defense. So, I mean, he's in a really good situation. It's just, how long truly is that window? Is it 2 to 3 years? Is it 2 years? How long truly is that window?
Yeah, I think the window comes down to how long Rodgers wants to play, not necessarily health. I think he's got 3 solid years left in him if he wants it. I guess it just depends on whether or not he wants to stick around that long. I think it's an easy 2. I don't doubt at all that he's going to play the next 2 years with the Jets and run it back at least once to see what happens. But it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, like, I'm not necessarily trying to say, like, I'm an advocate, like, saying, like, Rodgers on the decline, but I can see the side of it where he is on the decline. And yeah.
I mean, he's definitely on that, back end of his career.
He's on the back 9.
I just, He had so
Sometimes
much
the
against
backman's
him.
the most fun.
He had so much against him last year. That O-line wasn't great. Their wide receivers really didn't know what they were doing for half the season, which is to be expected. They did Rodgers no favors with the offensive group they put out there with him. But it's all going to get better, man. It's all going to be better. I like this trade for both teams. I'm excited. I really started doing a deep dive on the AFC versus NFC, and the NFC without Rodgers, it's literally hurts. Like, he's the best quarterback in that whole conference, and I didn't see anybody that was even close.
Fields will be.
Yeah, I think Fields is he's coming. Oh, great! I just used this.
The offensive line, they'll be just fine.
I just used the CU line. He's coming.
Clayton, that's
not happening, man.
Yeah,
he shouldn't have stuck around as long as he did.
So
He's under contract. So.
But it also doesn't change the fact that you know, the AFC West is, or the AFC, not AFC West, but the AFC is just, you know,
murderer's row, man.
It's always been powerful, but this is just one more time again, you know, that the AFC always reigns supreme. Even when Brady was there in the NFC for like that shorter period of time, the AFC was always like quarterbacks row.
Yeah. I think there's always an ebb and flow. It's no different than the East and West in basketball.
Yeah.
You know, the East was really strong during the Michael Jordan time frames, dating back to Bird and Zeke and things of that nature. It's since changed over the last 10 to 15 years. You can maybe even go back 20 with the Lakers and their dynasty, their short-lived dynasty. And the West has kind of taken over there. So it's going to ebb and flow. It's going to continue to move one way or the other. I think Hurts and Fields can play a big role in that being competitive, but it really does drop off after those two right now.
Well, and I think that's the thing, too, that made the NFC appealing in that sense, because it was like the NFC was top-heavy to where, like, those teams that were in the top echelon of the NFC were, like, really strong contenders for not just the NFC, but the NFL as a whole with the AFC. And so, yeah, like, there was more consistency and stuff like that within, say, the AFC, but still some of those teams that were in the NFC, like, and this is even back when Green Bay, like with Rodgers, right? Like Green Bay was part of that echelon, and even Seattle at the time with Russ, like they were within that upper echelon, like top teams of the NFC, where they were like competing year in and year out with not just the AFC, but the NFC as a whole for just complete NFL teams.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you talk about the NFC quarterbacks, but in reality, San Francisco could be argued as the best team in the league. It's going to depend on what happens with Lance, what happens with Purdy. And honestly, I think Darnold wins that job coming out of camp, depending on what Purdy is able to do. I think he'll get the first shot if he's healthy enough to go. I do think Darnold's more talented, and with Kyle Shanahan, I can't imagine him not running that offense for the entire season.
Yeah. That is definitely something I'm monitoring right now, is the Darnold stuff, because Purdy was great, but we may actually see what everyone wanted to see with Darnold, and that be the Kyle Shanahan system, so yeah, I'm really curious about what's going to go down with Darnold.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to throw this out to the people. We can continue on with the football conversation until the draft goes down here in 30 minutes. Or we could break down a little basketball, maybe sprinkle in some hockey if we'd like to. The people say yes, we can do it. If the people want to continue with the football, we'll go football. Let us know.
That's right. We'll let the peeps decide.
While we're waiting on that, I want everybody to pay attention to the beauty that is Cameron's hat. People need to start recognizing and be ready for what's about to come, because if you're not paying attention, Nebraska finally got rid of the end of the Peterson curse. If you're not familiar with Peterson, he is the AD that trashed the Nebraska football program. He is now gone because we got rid of his wannabe Herbie caricature. We brought back the original Herbie, overalls, cornstalk, number one finger. It's going down. I told people when my son was born, he's going to witness a winner. He's bringing back the glory. I fully believe that is about to go down. So pay attention because I'm going to talk a lot about Nebraska.
That's never going to happen, but they're just not going to be dog shit anymore.
It's coming, baby.
Well, we coming, right? That's like the twist. Like Nebraska's coming. Like, like no. So that was so fun. To be there in the spring game for a little bit. So I was at the spring game this Saturday. So I had the opportunity to see the introduction of the new Herbie, to see him drive around in the John Deere track.
Bike,
yeah,
and then on the tractor with the t-shirt gun, cannon.
Yeah, t-shirt cannon, and it's funny. You talked about the Peterson era. Along with that, he decided to ship off potentially what has been called the curse of Frank Solich. And anybody that doesn't know, the moment that Solich left, Nebraska had been kind of scraping at the barrel of those 9 to 10 wins every single season. And Nebraska, under Frost, I think they were trying to kind of bring the Solich identity back, but they never really did it. And then now with Rule in his first season, they really strongly recognize the past, and for a first-year coach, that's a big deal.
Did you see him throwing up the bones at the basketball game?
Yeah, and then I don't know if you caught this, Caleb, but like I'm sure you did. And then they decided in the halftime ceremony with Tom Osborne present and everybody else, where they decided to name the locker room the Frank Solich locker room, which I thought was a fantastic touch by Trev Alberts, the athletic director, because of course I felt like just such a nice touch anyway, because obviously his field is named after him in Ohio. Yep. So it's a nice touch to kind of like have something named after him, because there's Tom Osborne Field, obviously, and then
last little touch with Frank Solich. For those that don't know Nebraska history, the reason I'm so passionate about it, the reason Cam's so passionate about it, when you're from Nebraska, you got family from Nebraska, you don't have a choice. You're born into it, and you learn to either love it or you loathe yourself for life.
Yeah.
I didn't have to learn to love it. I loved it from the beginning because I was born into nothing but winning and championships. Cam's right there with me.
Yep.
But the thing about Solich, he was in the first recruiting class for Bob Devaney. Bob Devaney was the coach for the 70 and 71 back-to-back championship teams. 71 team is widely recognized as one of the top 5 college football teams of all time. Frank Solich was part of the beginning of that history. He went on to be an assistant coach with Tom Osborne, and then the head coach before Peterson ran him out of town. So bringing back full circle what that is a big deal in the Nebraska family.
Yeah.
So that's why we're so passionate about it. That's why we're loving seeing all of this. And again, the Peterson curse is gone, ladies and gentlemen. Be ready. Nebraska has some of the top facilities in the entire nation. There is zero reason why Lincoln cannot be a destination any more so than a Tuscaloosa or a Tallahassee or
even Boulder,
Michigan, or what. We're not talking about Boulder. Boulder's trash. So I fully believe in what's about to happen. So let's see what happens. You went on the bandwagon. Now's a good time to jump on. I'm telling you right now, 2-3 years and things are going to be looking real nice.
Sorry, man. Nobody cares about Nebraska. Nobody cares.
Look, hey, nobody cares about Nebraska, and we just gained, a couple more viewers, on the YouTube stream. I'm just saying. So people clearly, have an emotional tie since you're watching this with Nebraska.
And I'm going to say it now. The most hated program in all of college football is the Nebraska Huskers. Because even when we're down, people love to hate.
No, I just hate. I don't hate them. I just hate you. That's all. It's just you.
See, now he's choosing sides, so he loves me now, and I'm the Nebraska guy. Yeah, so I kind of see how it is.
Well, I only have to hear it from you every so often. I hear it from this guy
I can definitely bring it up more. I can definitely bring it up more if you want.
I'm consistent, Pinky. I'm consistent.
That you are, my friend. All right,
let's run through a little basketball. First thing I want to discuss is who here has heard of Dylan Brooks? Dylan Brooks is the loudest talker in NBA history with 0 game to back it up. My dude came out and poked the bear by his own volition and said he is basically going to knock LeBron out of the playoffs and can't wait for it to happen. And they're about to go down 4-1 and be out of the playoffs. And if Memphis is smart, they do not bring him back. They run him out of town. That dude's going to be lucky to find any spot on any NBA roster, and I see him playing over in the CBA next year. That's where his game's about to take him. I fully believe him talking all that smack negatively impacted Memphis and put them on a trajectory that there is no return from.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the little clip. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Lance Stevenson. I think that's
blowing in LeBron's ear.
Yeah, literally blowing in LeBron's ear, and it kind of reminded me of that. There's just always like these players, like over the course of the years, like that are just they don't really do anything. I mean, they like have like a role on a roster, but they're more of like the enforcer, like in hockey, like you have like, your big, defenseman or something like as your true enforcer or something like that. Like you're like an enforcer player. And in basketball, it's like, you just have like this forward center that's like a enforcer type, right? Like, cause on the Nuggets, right, when they were a playoff team, he was Kenyon Martin. Now, granted, like Kenyon Martin was actually a player. He wasn't like, a Kenyon game, Brooks, he's literally got nothing. I mean, he's basically Draymond Jones Draymond Green with no game. That's basically what he is.
Yeah, that's why he's so terrible. And the fact that he came out with that quote that the media and the fans are making me this villain, and now there's this other persona I got to fight against. Like, bro, I am so tired of these NBA players coming out and talking about their narrative like they didn't create it themselves. First, it was KD talking about how everybody created this narrative about him chasing championships, and he wasn't happy about it. No, you created the narrative by jumping ship and chasing chips. Mm-hmm. Dylan Brooks, you created your narrative by talking all that smack and having 0 game to back it up. Like, there's no narrative that anybody else created. We were following your lead, and now you're mad that somebody wanted to talk about what you did and said.
Right.
Get out of here with that nonsense. And we know nonsense, all right? All right? So don't talk to us and tell us we don't understand what's happening.
We do know nonsense. We do.
We even talk nonsense.
We do. Yeah. We're good at it. Yeah, that guy's is just kind of a joke. I think what's funny is he's kind of getting his, 5 minutes of fame just for being a joker. But his game does not match up with his talk.
And it'll cost him hundreds of millions of dollars in NBA contracts. So well done on the talking, buddy. But I'll, going to eat a little bit of crow. I thought Memphis was going to win that series. Lakers came out and
I think you said 7 though, didn't you?
I did say it would probably go 7. I said maybe 6. I think Ja's got a lot of growing up to do. I did not think his game was as weak as it's being exposed right now. I mean, the whole jumping out of the gym and hurting himself, and it's just, you got to play smarter than what he's doing right now, and it's costing him. Jaren Jackson has been...
He's been out, hasn't he?
No, he's been playing. Minimized, though, by Anthony Davis, which I thought would kind of equal each other out, and they haven't. Desmond Bane's been non-existent. Trying to talk trash about Hui Uchimura, and that backfired on him giantly. So
yeah, Uchimura's having a series. He's stroking.
Yeah, so more power to the Lakers. I hope we're not going to see them go past this next round, because I'm still pulling for Golden State. They went home, won both games, going back to Sacramento with a questionable De'Aaron Fox. If De'Aaron Fox he's doubtful.
I saw a thing from him saying he was playing with
He did say he would play, but he's still listed as doubtful. It's his left hand that has the broken finger. So, that's his dominant hand. That's his shooting hand. If he's minimized in any way, Sacramento doesn't have a chance. So that's going to be very interesting to see how that goes down. Easy, Cody. He probably will. I don't doubt that he will. He'll play. But how effective will he be with a broken finger on his dominant hand? That's going to be the question. My dude's been averaging 35, burying threes in dudes' faces, looking like a legit star.
They're going to need to have Sabonis and is it Horter?
Horter needs to
Keegan
step
Murray,
up. Barnes is
step up.
going to have to step up. And I don't know if they can get it done. I picked Golden State in 6, possibly 7. I'm going to stick with that. So we'll see how that goes. But that's been a fun series.
Yeah, it really has.
I had the Clippers winning.
Well, that was game 4.
Yeah.
They had crazy viewership on that. The ratings
highest
on that
viewership
were
in
crazy.
the last 6 years of a playoff game, which is not surprising given the talent that's on that court and the way those games have gone back and forth.
Best series so far. Best series.
Absolutely best series. I had Clippers winning in 6 or 7. That was before Kawhi went down. That series is over. Phoenix will get that done. But let's be honest, the way they've looked, as long as the Nuggets can get their stuff together, that will be
the Suns have struggled beating a Clippers team without Paul George and Kawhi.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
Telling.
Yeah. Like I said, they have no depth. 0 depth. And Ayton hasn't really done anything. Chris Paul is looking old. So you're looking at Devin Booker and Kevin Durant to carry him. They have. Don't get me wrong. Those two are playing like all-stars, like superstars. They're dangerous. They're nasty. But when there's nothing else around you, it doesn't matter if you're both scoring 40. You got to find another 40 points somewhere, and that's not going to happen. So they'll get to the next round, but by all estimates and the way things are going right now, it's going to be a Nuggets team they face, and they're not going to keep up with that.
And obviously, you got maybe like the most disappointing series, and Clayton's going to hate us for bringing this one up, but it's the Bucks series. I mean, like that's been probably. I mean,
Clayton, my guy, what are your Bucks doing?
I mean, admittedly, though, when you have kind of the game that Jimmy Butler had in the last game, I mean, that's a playoff game for the ages. And
dude was on fire.
Jimmy's a real dude.
Dude was on fire.
If people did not know about playoff Jimmy, this dude is real. He exists. He's a different person than Jimmy Butler. Playoff Jimmy is going to show up and ball. Here's the problem, and this is why Giannis and the Bucks still are within this series, even though they're down 3-1. It's only Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
Adebayo has not shown up, unfortunately. He is one of the most inconsistent. I'll call him a star because he's got the potential. But he is one of the most inconsistent stars I've ever seen. There is no Tyler Hero, who is their 6th man. He is their dynamite off the bench. And there's not much beyond that. So Bucks still have a shot. It's not a good shot, but they still have a shot. Eat a little bit more crow. Cleveland has not shown up. Donovan Mitchell has not looked great.
They've played pretty good, though.
They haven't played back. The Knicks have made them look foolish. The Knicks, especially last game, Knicks made them look foolish.
The Knicks in the last game were shooting lights out.
I said Jalen Brunson's that dude. Pay attention to what he's doing because that dude has turned into a legit star. More power to Thibodeau for benching Randolph at the end of the game to let the Knicks continue what they were doing. Josh Hart, I said, was a huge acquisition. He has been balling out for them in the playoffs. That was a money move that they made towards the end of the season to solidify their chances. Knicks are going to win this series. Cleveland's not coming back. So the Knicks will advance. And then finally, you've got Boston and the Hawks down in Atlanta. What the hell is Boston doing? They're doing what they have for the last couple of years. The inconsistency keeps showing up at the wrong times. There is zero reason Boston shouldn't have swept Atlanta.
They were up at least, I'm pretty sure they were up at least 15. And then all of a sudden I looked and I was like, oh, it's like tied. I know. Oh, Atlanta's up. Like, it's crazy.
And then Atlanta won.
Right? Atlanta pulled it out.
So 3-2 if I remember correctly. It's 3-2 Boston. I would not feel good right now if I'm Boston going back to Atlanta. I will give Trae Young some props. I have said he's overrated. I will hold to that for all the reasons I've listed in the past. But the man's got his team playing well and competing. So that's a series. And it's going to be interesting to see if Atlanta can win Game 6 and make them go back to Boston for a 7. So all in all, the playoffs have been good.
I mean, who's Boston? If they draw it out some more, they'll play the who they end up playing, the Heat? No.
Who will Boston play in the next series? Philly.
Boston.
And Philly swept the Nets. Nets were very competitive, like I thought they would be. I said it could be a sweep. All 4 games could be competitive, but it'd be a sweep. It's pretty much what happened. The news for Embiid is not great. Sprain PCL, I believe, is what I remember reading. They are not sure on the severity of the sprain just yet. If he misses more than a game, that puts them in a hole that's going to be hard to dig out of because James Harden is not carrying them against
they aren't beating
next
the Celtics.
round. So now, Embiid healthy, Harden healthy, I give them a puncher's chance against Boston. I could easily go in 7. But without Embiid, nah. So we'll see.
And as far as the local scene, because we're all local here, the Nuggets have the lead on the Timberwolves right now.
By a point and a half.
Yeah, by
coming
1.
back to do it.
They're home, looking to finally get a chance to close out the series. Start a little sluggish. The Nuggets started out a little sluggish, but it looked like Bubble Murray just has decided to kind of show up a few times, in the series, and I don't have the game on, but it certainly seemed like Murray kind of took off near the end of the half, and then that's kind of where things are with it being 48-47. It certainly didn't start out well. I think down
9 real early, real quick.
So
Murray is still showing a little bit of inconsistency that worries me, but it's coming along bit by bit. So it shouldn't be a concern, but it is a slight worry.
I think this is the thing that makes the Nuggets such a fascinating team, though, because if you do end up getting a Bubble Murray, like the way that we've been seeing in sometimes like within this series or, just at even moments during the regular season, the moment that you even see a Bubble Murray for 2-3 games, like that plus Jokic. And then, of course, the consistency that we've been seeing with Michael Porter Jr., that's a really scary team going forward within the playoffs that I really don't think many teams would like to play.
I can tell you the problem right now tonight. You got Michael Porter 0 for 5 from three-point land. Aaron Gordon 0 from 3 from three-point land. KCP 1 for 4 and Joker 1 for 3.
Gordon shouldn't be shooting threes.
Why are they shooting threes?
Gordon shouldn't be shooting at all. MPJ is hot and cold. He's still streaky. So that's something you live or die with. The biggest concern I have right now is what I've talked about before, is the inconsistency as a whole from the team. Yeah. And it came out last game. They had a chance to close out the Timberwolves, sweep them in 4. Jokic throws up a 40-pointer. 13 rebounds, 14 rebounds, 7 assists, and they came back from 12 down with 2:30 left in the game to tie it. Jokic is at the free throw line, has 2 to put him up by 1 with 7 seconds left, misses one of them, goes to overtime. And this is where I have a critique of Mike Malone. First of all, I am tired of him having press conferences where he talks about we in the sense that it doesn't include him, and he blasts his players. I have not heard that man take accountability as a coach and say, I could do better, I could have done this differently the entire season. I saw many mistakes from a personnel standpoint and from a clock management standpoint that I'm not going to go fully into right now, but they worry me. They're a very big concern when you start playing better teams. He cannot have those mistakes himself. And he's unwilling to admit when he makes those mistakes and pulls it back on their team, like they didn't come out and fight, or we turned the ball over too much, or, we weren't there on the defensive end the way we needed to be. Nah. How about as a coach? I should have done better. I made some mistakes that didn't go down the way we needed them to. Our team played great, and we'll be back next game. You'll never hear that from him. So there's still my worries there. Like I said, I had him as a 51% chance to come out of the West and even go all the way. So I favor them, but it's not a huge favor right now.
The confidence isn't high.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like Caleb said it best. Like, this team is so streaky, but they aren't the best like streaky team that's probably in the NBA right now, because it's like the moment they get hot, there is no team in the NBA playoffs that can probably even play them. Just ask the Bucks. I mean, they
hammered the Bucks.
I was at that game, and yeah, they absolutely just destroyed the Bucks at home, and so again, like, this is also the thing too. And now, granted, like, this was around the stretch, like, where it was kind of like faltering just a little bit with Jokic during the whole MVP conversation. But I mean, there was a point in time where, like, the moment that, like, he kind of took a little bit of a hit in his play, he started to, you start to see the players kind of play a little bit down. And so I think that's just the unfortunate thing, is like the team has to play a lot more consistently, and it's one of the reasons why Murray has to play so better and MPJ has to play so much better, so that Jokic isn't like the guy that's carrying the ring to Mordor every single game, because I mean, like, because when you have that, you're looking at basically like all the scratches and bruises that Jokic will get literally every single game, because he's literally carrying the team to the NBA Finals. You're muted, Caleb.
Hang on.
Sorry.
I think you muted. Mute yourself again. You mute yourself. I tried to get rid of the echo, so I muted myself to go through Pinky, and now, yeah. So, thank you, Cam. Consistency, I fully believe, is a sign of coaching. The most consistent teams have the best coaching, and that's where I see some concerns. So it'll be interesting to see how they finish this out. They need to win tonight. They have to win tonight, close out the Timberwolves series, and move forward. I fully believe that. I think they can lose and still win the series. I just don't think it's a good confidence booster going into the next series against the Suns. So that needs to happen. Real quick, we got a couple minutes here before we're going to jump into our draft, and we're going to go full bore NFL. For the hockey fans, couple things. Start with the homers, the Avs. The inconsistency with the Avs right now is insane. The lack of being able to play in the first period is mind-boggling. I believe a lot of that has to do with missing pieces and not being able to get their lineup together and play as a whole. But they're going to be without Cale Makar for Game 5, and that is a big deal. I still think they can win without Cale Makar, but it's a big loss to not have Makar. So we'll be intently watching. Series is tied at 2-2. For those who watched a couple weeks ago, our boy Cody told us to pay attention to Seattle. They're one of the best 5-on-5 teams in the NHL, and they have proven that to be true. So, Cody, great analysis there. It's something I've been paying close attention to. So, Avs fans, we need a win in Game 5. We need it bad.
Guess you could say better get to Kraken.
Yeah. Well done, Cam. Well done, sir. Cheers. Well done. The other thing I'll touch on right now is out east. The Devils and the Rangers. Devils are kind of spanking the Rangers right now in a way that was not that expected. Rangers need to step their game up. If I remember correctly, Cody, if you're still here, help me out. I believe New Jersey is up 3-1. Did I see that correctly? That's a big hole that the Rangers are trying to dig themselves out of now, and that's not a good look. The other thing I will say is welcome to the playoffs, Toronto Maple Leafs. You were down 4-1 the other night, 3 unanswered to send it to overtime. Then you go and win in overtime to go up 3-1 in the series. Hello. You're either about to break your playoff curse that you've been dealing with for the first round and make some noise possibly out east, or you're about to have one of the most epic collapses to probably allow that curse to continue for the next 20 years. So pay attention. Cody is correcting me. I apologize. It is tied 2-2 with New Jersey and New York. Rangers have had their chances, though. I've been watching that series. Rangers have had their chances, and they have been not showing up at night for a couple of these games. So that's not a good look for the Rangers. But they do have the talent. Like Cody said, they could easily come out of the East deal. So pay attention to that. But Toronto, let's go. Let's go Maple Leafs. Let's close this out against Tampa. Let's just end Tampa's possibility of even coming back for another resurgence. Let's just end that team. Let's end any talk of any more dynasty. Toronto, break your curse. Let's get to the next round. That's about what I've got for the playoffs right now. There are some other things going on. It's been a good Stanley Cup playoff, so if you like hockey, you've got to be happy with what you've been able to see. If you don't like hockey, pay attention to the things we've talked about. Go back and listen to a couple weeks ago with Cody. He was dead on with a lot of his analysis.
No sweet. Everything's been
close.
Yeah. It's been a solid playoff. So the quick rundown, touched on some other sports. Cody, you're right. I should have mentioned that. The Oilers and Kings series has been crazy. Well, we got 3 overtime games, I believe, in that series already. That series has been intense. Playoff hockey at its finest for sure. Cody, thank you. Did mean to mention that, and I spaced it. So our boy Cody's on. He's on it. With that being said,
Edmonton is in Canada, so it's understandable to forget.
Cold. If you got any hockey questions, you want to talk NBA, I'm always down for some NBA conversation. We can run hockey by Cody and come back to you if we don't have the answers or any thoughts. I'm still amazed that fits on Pinky's head. It will always amaze me every time it goes on. I'm always worried it's not coming back off. So without further ado, we are going to roll into our yearly NFL draft. Let me bring our boy on here, Mr. Andrew Tilton. Andy, my guy, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? Glad to be here. Sorry if the dogs got wild up. Sorry. Bad.
So we're gonna roll into this. We've done this every year. Andy, Pinky, and I talked to Cam. He was more than gracious to jump in with us, so we appreciate that. Couple things I want to get out of the way before we get going here. And I'm going to make this very clear. If you don't understand this, it's on you, not us. We are not picking a mock draft like these so-called experts are going to do. This is not a what is the team going to do. This is not what we believe might happen. This is what we believe they should do if they were intelligent enough to make the right decision. That's how we do our draft. We're not trying to predict anything. We're trying to tell you our thoughts, how we feel of what the teams coming up should do in the draft to make themselves better. We also do not predict trades. We have thoughts on what's going to happen. We will mention when we believe a trade might be possible within the draft, but we're not going to discuss a trade potential. We're going to draft based on the order that is currently set, and that's how we're going to roll through these 31 picks. Pinky, anything to add?
I think you said it best. We're going to do what we are the GM of that team, and we're going to do what we want.
That's right. That's right.
So, which means we'll probably get 0% correct.
Most likely. Are we
going to kick it off?
Andy, hold on. Andy joined in. He's our Kansas City homer. And how are you doing, buddy?
All doing good, man. It was a good night. As you know, planning, you can see my luggage back there getting packed up for Kansas City for us to leave tomorrow morning. So excited for that. We had football practice, did get canceled, so no coaching today. So that gave me some extra time to kind of catch up with the kids and get things knocked out. So that was great. And Amy's on her way over to grab Iggy. So all will be good. Yeah, excited for it. I think this draft has got a lot of actual good players and a lot of talent here. It's not one of the most touted drafts, but I'm excited. There's a lot of guys here that I think will be really good key players or just situational guys that make a splash.
There's going to be chaos this year.
Yeah.
There's going to be chaos this year. So be prepared for this first couple of rounds because you're going to see trades. You're going to see movement. And it's going to be a lot. I fully believe that.
I was just going to say is that it's one that I've seen a lot of different things. I've seen a lot of different things as far as, the wide receiver room. Is this going to be in the first round specifically? Because we're going to do the first round. Are we going to see 4, 5, 6 wide receivers go in the first round? Are we going to see a run on tackles? You're kind of seeing a bit of everything. Or are we going to see not just 2 tight ends go in the first, but are we going to see maybe a third or just
Absolutely.
one tight end? So I think that's the fascinating thing. Oh, by the way, our team's going to trade up, or is the betting odds of Will Levis actually true? And, is he going number 1 overall? So it's so there's just so much intrigue, and it happens every single year. I always think back to the year of Baker Mayfield. We talk about Sam Darnold earlier, right? Sam Darnold was the sole pick for number 1 for months. And then the Senior Bowl hit. And it's at that moment, the Baker Mayfield rise just took off. And then, he ended up going number 1. So it just, anything can happen.
Absolutely. We're going to see anything happen. So, Pinky, with that being said, let's put the Carolina Panthers on the clock.
And you've got number 1, my man.
Guys, chaos is going to start early. Now, here's the deal. I fully believe, regardless of what you hear in the media from all these experts, there are 3 dudes fully capable of all being the first pick overall. Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and CJ Stroud. I became a big Bryce Young guy about a week and a half ago, when there was an analyst who came out and said, Bryce Young is Steph Curry on grass. And that hit hard with me. I'm a big Steph guy. I had to go back and rewatch the Bryce Young tape. I had to look at it a little bit closer. There's some truth behind that. The dude is magic in the pocket. He seems to find the little holes that he needs to be able to make the throw necessary, and then he makes the right throw. CJ Stroud is real simple. If you didn't watch him play against Georgia, go back and watch, because that dude can ball. And if Marvin Harrison Jr. does not get hit out of that game, OSU and CJ Stroud beat Georgia. Fully believe that. And then there's Anthony Richardson, who I think has the highest possible ceiling in this draft. And I've been saying for a few weeks now, I don't see an issue with his completion percentage. I don't see an issue with the dude missing throws. What I saw was incapable receivers and an offensive scheme that did him no favors out of Florida. So with that being said, first pick, Carolina Panthers, Frank Wright, they're going to go ahead and take Anthony Richardson. And they're going to watch this dude ball out. Because that is a circle peg in a circle hole that are going to know how to develop and use a man properly. So I see that as being a very solid and easy pick to make based on the ceiling that he has.
It's a fun pick. I mean, when you really want to start it off with chaos, I mean, you might as well start it off with chaos.
That's nice. It's wrong, but it's nice.
You can say it's wrong all you want, but I have heard from multiple sources that's the dude Frank Wright likes. That is the dude he likes. And now there's a consensus in the building. Don't be surprised if that's how it ends up.
Well, and that's the thing is like when you make a deal like that, whether it's a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, like I always kind of like laughed, whenever they said, "Oh, we might trade back." No, then what was the point of you trading up? Like, what was the point? So
they were going to try to go draft day on people.
Right. Get all our picks back in David Putney.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
you pancake eating motherfucker.
Right.
When he's on it early.
I watched it earlier today with my son. We do it every year before the draft. So,
and like I said, I think all three guys are fully capable of being the first overall pick.
Yeah.
But if you're going to give me the option right now, I think it's almost a coin flip. But the more I watch Anthony Richardson, the more I see just insane potential and a low ceiling. I mean, a high floor and a high ceiling. So there's not a lot of bad there.
Okay. Well, now that Caleb's wrong and he messed up the entire draft, I'm on the clock with the Houston Texans. And I was going to throw a wrench by taking Tyree Wilson, who's actually moved up to plus 145 on the betting odds today. But I think Houston would really love to have Bryce Young, and I think they would just run the card up and take him.
So what you're saying is that even despite the betting odds, they should have done the smart thing to begin with, and actually still taking the quarterback. And like I like Tyree Wilson and Will Anderson if he went to Houston, but you can't pass up on a quarterback. So I don't hate it.
I just want to make sure everybody sees this when we're talking about running backs. I think he likes to call them. They're not. They're dual threat quarterbacks. They're not running back. They're dual threat quarterbacks.
The first 2 years of Anthony Richardson's career, he's going to run for close to 1,000 yards. If he learns how to throw after that, it's gravy. But he's going to run the ball quite a bit.
Well, the nice thing, too, about Richardson is he didn't have amazing wide receiver talent or tight end talent or offensive line talent, except for, was it Torrance? But, I mean, he got a lot done with less. So for a team, like the Panthers, who's got rid of all their offensive weapons, he is kind of a sexy pick because Bryce Young is used to throwing to amazing receivers. CJ Stroud's used to throwing to amazing receivers.
Well, let's be clear.
Still pretty good.
One of the other reasons I like Anthony Richardson to go one, to be perfectly honest with you, and surprise some people, is because they brought in a veteran receiving corps. Now, they may not be the most talented at this point in their careers, but when you have guys like Adam Thielen on the offensive side of the ball, who is underrated throughout his career, I would say, you give him the opportunity to have veteran leadership around him and help him grow with a head coach like Frank Wright and develop.
For sure. And one of the things that I think with Anthony Richardson that is just, it's such a huge thing with the tools. Like when you bet on the tools, he's such a sexy pick, as you said. And also too, and again, it really doesn't matter the quarterback you would select because all three of them are going into such an ideal situation because what I'm trying to say is like, it's such a young coaching staff too, that even with Reich, that it's the nice blend between, youth and experience on that coaching staff. And that's like the right, form of like, if you're trying to groom a quarterback like a CJ Stroud, an Anthony Richardson, or even a Bryce Young, that is like the ideal landing spot for any of those guys.
Yeah, I like that. Great point. Arizona Cardinals on the clock.
Andy.
Anything and everything is available because they're just decimated and charging guys for food. So good luck.
Yeah, I looked over this. There's a couple of different ways this goes. A lot of people have them trading out. Funny thing is, I also had the Raiders pick. There's a lot of people that say the Raiders trade up to get the quarterback that they want. So, like you said, staying as is. I mean, the biggest thing for Arizona is I don't think they're ready to move on from Murray yet. And with them not doing that, their O-line, I kept looking at that, trying to see if maybe that would be big. Comes out, they're actually ranked top 5 for pass protection. So even though when Murray was in, he got sacked 15 times in the games he played, which put him 10th in the NFL, that O-line was actually pretty darn good. So they have the talent. The big thing is that defense is now, it's got so many holes. And now with Buda Baker trying to get out, JJ's gone. You're losing that veteran, presence. Peterson walked up, a couple of years ago. So they've got huge holes. So they need that spark. And this draft's, I'd say, number one talented player is, Will Anderson from Bama is just so lightning and explosive. He says the right stuff. He compares to being humble. Yeah, Pink, you can click it. But he says his. I see it slowly creeping. I was kind of like, but like he's moving.
Yeah.
And he compares it like he wants to be Khalil Mack and Von Miller. And he has the first step that Miller does, or maybe not as fast. But the point is it's ridiculous. This is a generational guy that we haven't seen this kind of edge rush in a very long time. And if they can lock that down, that's a great spark.
He's had that consistency since he started at Alabama. Like he's absolutely been the dude. So I got no issues with that. They'll probably trade down. But if they stayed put like they do in this, because there's no trades, that's a great pick.
Well, I'd say even they still don't even have to trade down. They could even just stay and put like with what they're doing. And Will Anderson is, Pinky, you touched on it just now, but it's like he's been so good with Bama the last few years that there was even conversation like from myself and even obviously like others. And Andy, maybe you've mentioned this too. It's like with Aiden Hutchinson, it's like even if Anderson came out last year, like there was even conversation that like he was going to be a top 5 pick. And like right now we're sitting at the exact same moment where Anderson, probably was going to be taken last year. And
if he come out last year, he probably goes above Trayvon Walker.
That's a great point, Cam, because it's rare that somebody goes back to school and their draft stock doesn't take a hit a little bit. That's kind of the MO of when you go back to school, you usually take a hit on your draft stock. And if anything, he helped it. He definitely didn't hurt it by any means. So I think that's a great point. Andy, you brought up a lot of great situational thinking when you're talking about Arizona's offensive line is not that bad. They do need help on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to weapons, but their defense is so holy that they have to do something there.
Look, I've already said these guys, as soon as the betting is available, I am betting on them to get the number 1 pick next year. They're that bad.
We'll see. Because if we do get a draft lottery, then maybe someone else will get the number 1 overall pick.
I love the way the NFL
that.
Does it now.
We're not doing that.
The beauty of the NFL, side note, is that last gets first and so on down the line. And they've created parity within the way they do their salary cap and their structures for salaries that the NFL and the MLB need to get on board with. Because you can go worst to first in 3 years and be a very competitive team for a long time if your front office is intelligent. Now, there's not a lot of intelligent front offices in the NFL, as I've made clear many times over, but the possibility is there.
All right, you know what this means? Oh, Cam, you're going to make it a point. I can't see you on the screen, but
it's
I can hear you.
You're blind. It's okay. But no.
What's your pick too?
Well, I was just going to say for the Colts pick, if I had to script the perfect landing spot for a quarterback, he's unfortunately going to Carolina.
Yes. Cam, you and I are on the same page there.
So, because if there are a few slots, and I don't know if we'll get to that point, but there are a few slots of players that I ideally would love to go, to certain places. And Anthony Richardson with Shane Steichen is something that I've had circled in from day one. And it probably even explains why they're even, kicking the tires on Lamar Jackson right now, just from the simple fact of, they saw how good it was with Jalen Hurts. So why not keep the same thing going and, have a Lamar Jackson? But
absolutely true. And if I was picking fourth, I would have prayed that Anthony Richardson fell.
Yeah. If we didn't want chaos. But anyway, it's
we just speak truth, Cam. There's no chaos here. We just speak truth. Like I said, this is what the team should do if they want to be better.
But in the saneness of still going with logic and then putting our Jim Irsay hat on, unfortunately, we're going to keep the consistent theme of keeping the quarterback room going forward, and we are going to take C.J. Stroud from Ohio State. It certainly seemed like it was a little bit, kind of looking that way as far as them going quarterback anyway with, what was it? Irsay had a tweet where he literally pictured like all 4 quarterbacks, like saying, we'll kind of go in any direction, but oh, by the way, here's a picture of like 4 different quarterbacks that we actually might take, with this 4th overall selection. But I tell you, I really like CJ Stroud. I do have Bryce Young just a little bit, higher than him just because of the playmaking. But the guy is just a stud. I mean, the guy is like, he's got pinpoint accuracy. The guy is maybe the best pure passer of this entire class. Anthony Richardson probably has the higher ceiling of all of them. But I mean, Stroud, you're talking about a guy that like, there's been so much made about his S2 score and everything like that. But like the way he processes the game, the way that he is as a player, he will fit really well. And it's funny because the last time they had a quarterback that was that kind of processor and so on and so forth, what was maybe Andrew Luck minus the mobility. So, I mean, let's just hopefully in that case, if they get a guy like a CJ Stroud or an Anthony Richardson or even a Bryce Young, if so help me, he drops that far. But it's just like, if they get a guy like that, hopefully they build the offensive line in this one. But yes. CJ Stroud to the Indianapolis Colts.
And I'm not worried about the cognitive score. I think it's a joke. The fact that people are trying to downgrade this guy is mind-blowing to me. Again, go watch the Georgia game. That dude didn't show any issues with playing quarterback at a high level, processing the field, making the right throws. Like Cam said, probably the best pure passer in the draft. And let's be honest, in that Georgia game, he showed a level of mobility that surprised a lot of people that did not know he was capable of. So, love the pick.
You're up, Caleb.
Number 5 was Seattle. There's a couple different ways we could go with this. I think they could use some offensive line help, even though it was vastly improved and they hit on a couple guys last year. I think they could go with some weapons on the outside. DK is obviously there. You got Lockett still. Wouldn't hurt to have a third guy there. Go Jackson Smith and Jigba. That wouldn't be a bad shot. I hesitate to take this guy because I'm not sure if his head is in football. And it could be a risky pick in the sense that he could very much flame out very quickly based on off-the-field issues. But the talent is so dominant, and it does feel a position of need that could really, honestly, if their quarterback can take another step forward next year, could put them on a little bit more even playing field with San Francisco than people want to believe. I got to take Jalen Carter here.
He's so awesome when he's out there just playing. He's awesome. And when you can have an interior defensive guy from the interior pushing the pocket, creating havoc, good things happen. That's going to work out really well for them. I know Andy's got something to say about Carter because he's a Georgia guy.
Yeah, I love Jalen Carter. His motor is amazing. The way he fights through the ball, it's just like you stated. If you can get a quarterback out of the pocket, your corners now look amazing. Which guess what? They got 2 good corners last year. So your linebackers are going to be able to headhunt, which normally they can't do because they're dropping in their coverages or they're having to cover parts of the field without going. But when you can start knowing where the quarterback's going to be because Carter can shut off parts of the field, that's insane. So they'll have a lot of help there. And then, am I wrong? Did they get Draymond Jones?
They did.
They did.
That's ridiculous. Those 2 together, that's insane because none of them can be. If you double team one, you're guaranteeing the other one's coming in. And if they have any edge rush, I mean, that's just wow.
And oh, by the way, they have a really good secondary, a young secondary too now, as well. So that defense is pretty scary. And oh, by the way, you have an underrated linebacker. I can't believe I'm talking up the Seahawks, but anyway, but then you have an underrated tackling machine again in Bobby Wagner and oh, by the way, Jordan Brooks. So, I will say, as far as an underrated, and obviously we didn't go this route, I will say this is a very interesting pick for quarterback. So obviously they signed Geno Smith to that deal, but I also was kind of looking selfishly. I was looking at Will Levis, and it's like this is a possibility where I could have even seen a Will Levis go here. Because considering the situation, and even then, like he's going to a really good situation. Because like, if you look at it last year, obviously they really weren't banking on Geno Smith having the kind of year that he did post Russell Wilson. But if you really look at the draft, they went out and got Cross and Lucas in that same draft, and they came out like gangbusters. I mean, they were great.
Kenneth Walker.
With Kenneth Walker.
Seattle had one of the best drafts last year that I've seen in a long time.
So, I mean,
from the cornerbacks that they grabbed, the offensive line, Kenneth Walker. So I think Jalen Carter really helps put them on a different plane. Here's the kicker, and I think you touched on a little bit here, Cam. If Anthony Richardson somehow falls to this position, I think Seattle's running to the podium to snatch up Richardson and learn behind Geno, with Pete Carroll, with that offense. The other thing that I think could be really interesting is, depending on the way the board falls here, I fully believe that we're about to see a run such that Will Levis falls like Aaron Rodgers did. So I think those are a couple things to keep an eye on when this area of the draft starts pulling up.
He ain't gonna go too far.
People said that about Aaron Rodgers.
He's not gonna go too far.
Rodgers fell to what, 20?
Yeah, but there was you look at it. It was Alex Smith and then Rodgers at 24. Like there was
24.
Are we tipping a pick, Pinky?
Options.
Are we tipping a pick?
No, there's some future picks coming up that I don't think he would get past.
Okay.
In that case, so
run it.
Obviously, I'm on the clock.
Yeah.
With the Detroit Lions, who I don't know if anybody knows, but they're going to win the North next year. They will be kings of the North. I'm putting it out there right now. Once Aaron Rodgers got traded, the Lions are winning the North.
Okay.
This was tough.
The Bears.
Some people probably saw me scrolling. There's two guys here. They need some corner help. So Christian Gonzalez is coming to Detroit.
Love that pick.
And he is going to really help. And that defense came on during the second half of the season. The first half of the season, their offense carried. The second half of the season, the defense picked up the slack. I'm high on the Lions. I'm excited for this pick. Christian Gonzalez is just smooth. I like that guy a lot.
Detroit, stand up.
Okay. I respect it. I mean, this feels like this also feels like, and granted, like we're kind of going about like what we feel would, what we would want to have happen. Well, to be fair, like them actually going corner here also feels like it's actually something that's probably going to happen.
Agreed.
In the actual draft.
Now, here's what I will say. I think Christian Gonzalez, for the most part, is kind of seen as the consensus top corner. But don't be surprised if they go Devin Witherspoon instead.
Sure.
Only because I feel like he's a little bit more physical, a little bit bigger body.
Yeah.
And I, being a Nebraska guy, being in the Big Ten, saw a lot of his stuff. I really like what Devin Witherspoon has to offer. And I think he fits more to the NFL game. Only because of that physicality, where Gonzalez played in the Pac-12, which is a little bit more finesse. Nothing against Gonzalez. I think he's going to be an excellent talent. But I would not be surprised if Witherspoon went over Gonzalez first.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think he fits what Campbell wants. He wants to bite kneecaps, all the stuff he said. He wants to crack heads over the middle. Like, that's what he wants. And Gonzalez is a better playmaker, but that's just like Detroit would have never taken Sauce Gardner. They don't want that kind of corner. They don't want to play and touch off and, make breaks in the ball like a Dion. They want a guy that gets in your face, hits you at the line, and shuts you down.
Right.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. So,
all right.
But I love the pick, Pinky.
Vegas is on the clock. And Andy has the pick. So let us know.
So with Vegas, of course, the big thing is how much do they really believe in Jimmy G? How much are they really going to hold on to that? And that's my big thing is I don't know how much of – McDaniels, to be honest, is such an unknown. He is such a wild card with what he's
a horrible coach.
I just – the smart idea is to not get Jimmy G and because you've got such a place, you're going to have a quarterback drop, especially for a guy who's supposed to be good with quarterbacks. So, but the thing is, if I was him, the number one thing they have to start doing, they've got to start winning in the trenches, and they just don't. They have actual talent, but that you can't really see it do much because they don't win in the trenches at all. So this is where I would say for them, I wanted to lean towards quarterback pretty high, but with Skronsky still on the board, I think he's just too good to say no to at left tackle and really start trying to bring that team back in.
They have a left tackle in Colton Miller.
Move him over.
You putting Skronsky at right tackle?
No, Skronsky's going left.
Colton
right,
Miller.
Andy?
Remember when he got drafted, Pink, you're like, who the fuck?
Well, I knew who Colton Miller was versus Alex Leatherwood, who they already released. But
correct. Well, Leatherwood was from Bama, so I was hoping he would pan out. Now, this isn't as much of a jump as the Patriots. The guy they got, that was out there.
Andy, let me ask you this, and then Cam, jump in, please. Sorry. No. I'm amazed that some people – actually, it feels like almost a majority of the media does not have Skoransky as the top dude. And a lot of things I keep hearing are due to arm length at the next level. Mm-hmm. And all I saw from this dude was an absolute mauler, a beast, footwork on point every single time. This is my top tackle in the draft, and I don't think it's as close as people try to make it sound.
I am, if a guy's got really good feet at tackle, I think he can make up for having a little bit smaller arms.
This would be my perfect world situation for him to drop to 32.
Well, that's not happening.
Andy, guys, you're right. He's called T-Rex. We need to drop him. We should start it now. Get the word out. This guy is not that good. Not playing, but yeah, he's my top tackle too.
I was gonna say, Andy, in order for that to happen, he would have to go through like a Laramie Tunsil, smoke a bong like 10 minutes before the draft.
Worse than that. Lale Collins killed a guy before the draft.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Went undrafted.
He went undrafted. We're talking like pick 31 here.
And that only dropped Tunsil down to like, what, 13?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So obviously the NFL don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But I was going to say was Skoransky, I was going to say like he also offers like some flexibility. And I think if you're the Jets, like this is like maybe your like ideal player like later on that you probably would have wanted to target, given like your current status of not just the Aaron Rodgers deal, but like just the way it's instructed with Vera Tucker and Dwayne Brown, and Becton. Like that kind of feels like your ideal guy to go after. So unfortunately, that's not going to happen. But like he does offer that flexibility to play inside, and some people even have him as a guard one if he's like that kind of guy at the next level. And it's rare. Like it is really rare when you have that kind of player go basically from Rashawn Slater to Skoransky. And I was actually listening to a podcast with Joe Klatt, and Klatt actually mentioned when he had a conversation, with Pat Fitzgerald, and he said to the likes of like when Slater was there, he said, we have another tackle that's, coming in the wings, and that was Skoransky. And it's rare when you have basically a really good tackle with Slater and then turn right around and the next 3 years have another guy that's really, really good. So it is pretty rare.
Absolutely. And Andy, I love that pick. it'd be hard to say the Raiders are smart enough to do that.
I'd be hard pressed to say they shouldn't draft a defender there because their defense is absolute dog shit. But
I will say I think Andy did it right because, and I've been saying this for years. Maybe it's the Nebraska in me, because I watched, growing up, the trenches do the work to make you great. And if you don't have the trenches to build off of, you have to build from the inside out. You have to. And Skoransky is just a beast.
All right, Cam, you were up with the Atlanta Falcons, my man.
Boy, this is an interesting situation here. This is another interesting part of the draft.
I don't think you can lose at this pick. Like anything you choose is something they need.
Actually, like I feel like with the way things are going and the way that Atlanta is trending, like they need edge help bad. Like they need edge help really bad. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know if this player actually lasts this long in the draft. And so if you're Atlanta, I will say you are probably streaking with clothes off and everything to the podium with the fact that player was available, and that is Tyree Wilson. Like,
hell yeah.
They need that. They really need that kind of edge help. And so the fact that they're able to get a guy who is maybe has the highest upside, even over a guy like a Will Anderson, he's definitely got all the tools. He's strong. He's physical. He's got a really high motor. And he played in the Big 12, which is still really good competition, folks, by the way. Texas Tech really doesn't turn out a whole lot of like really decent, like solid defensive prospects, except for say developmental players. Just ask, Jordan Brooks, which was a surprise, pick at the time, but look how that turned out with the Seattle Seahawks.
Absolutely.
So a guy like Tyree Wilson, literally, it's a no-brainer here for Tyree Wilson.
Couldn't agree more, Cam. That's a great pick. Bawana, I'll jump in here real quick and say I love Bijan. I think he's a generational talent. If Atlanta takes him here, they failed themselves. That's my personal opinion. I think Algier is underrated at the running back position. And like Cam said, that defense needs prayers at this point to do anything. And if somebody like a Tyree Wilson falls, they better be streaking to the podium, like Cam said.
You're on the clock, my man.
Chicago Bears.
Chicago Bears.
The Bears. Guys, let's be honest here. There are rumors floating around that and I'm just going to say it, the dumbass Bears are looking at defensive line, linebacker, even cornerback help. If Paris is sitting here,
do the smart thing. Come on.
Waiting to be drafted, and you have I've said it for the last couple of years, revisionist history, our boys messed up. You have a quarterback like Justin Fields. You didn't do anything in free agency to help him. You better be streaking to the podium and grabbing my guy to bolster that offensive line. This is a left tackle who is, I won't say on the same level as Skoransky, because I agree with Andy. I think Skoransky is the top tackle. Cam said it too. But he's not far behind.
Oh.
Paris Johnson can pass block at an elite level. His run blocking is solid.
Yeah.
And if you want to see Justin Fields be able to take that next step and show his true talent, like I believe he has as a great passer, you are grabbing Paris Johnson. You are loving every minute of it, and you're not looking back.
Hey, Caleb.
Yes, sir.
Where did Paris Johnson go to school?
Somewhere out in the Midwest. Loving the corn-fed diet, I do believe.
Yeah, he went to Ohio State, and he blocked for a certain quarterback down there at Ohio State, didn't he?
I believe so.
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah, that's something that seems like it would make sense, but that also feels like something the Bears are incapable of.
All right. So we're going to speed now that we're getting past the top 10. We're going to start speeding this up a little bit.
Probably not, but
We're going to try. All right. For the Eagles, everybody wants them to take Bijan.
Please do it.
I think they're going to take a corner, Devon Witherspoon.
You know why this is okay, Pinky? You know why this is okay? Because at the same time this pick is announced, which is a great pick and a steal for them, it's going to be announced right behind it that they have traded for Derrick Henry.
I think they're all in, and I think they're looking for things that help them win right now. So,
like I said, I think he's possibly the number one corner. I think it's a solid pick. You can't lose there.
So Andy, you're on the clock with Tennessee.
With Tennessee right here, I think if this falls this way, just like we talked about, they're going to run up and get Levis. I think this is everything they wanted. They remember how successful they were with Tannehill, and Levis can bring that same thing, but just younger. So that would be where I think they would go.
And they can still keep Tannehill for a season, maybe a season and a half.
Oh, to let him come under, yeah.
Yeah. Let Levis learn how to be a pro, take some time, learn the offense, and then get rolling.
I don't hate the thought, Andy, but this is what I'll say. I still fully believe Malik Willis has talent that is untapped. And I believe Tennessee is atrocious since Arthur Smith left at developing any potential talent at the quarterback position. So I fully believe if Will Levis goes here, he will fail miserably. Unfortunately.
I mean, the weapons aren't really there, and Malik Willis, we can both agree that I enjoyed him too, and I think he is a talent, and they're just not going to give him what he needs. I mean, we're watching his career just die out, and we both know he's trying his hardest. He's going to tell the coaches everything's right, and hey, I'll learn whatever you want, but his skill set is not what the Tennessee Titans want, even though it'd be amazingly sexy with who they have. So that's like with Treylon Burks. You guys know I was a huge Treylon Burks fan because what he offers in the run game, he's an amazing blocker, but he's also a catch it and get you those gritty yards. So if you start having a quarterback that can roll out, which Willis could do easily, you could start doing it, but they're not going to move the pocket. They want to just control the clock and slowly eat the ball. And that's why I think they'll go with Levis because he is a good game manager. Kentucky,
you make a great point there. He fits a Tannehill mold, what Venable wants to do in that situation. Side note, real quick, I'm just going to throw this out there, and Pinky hates me for this because I've had it out there for the past couple of weeks already. Broncos should throw a fourth or a fifth out there and go grab Malik and let him sit behind Russ and learn from a Sean Payton. And I think you could see some.
I think I just threw up in my mouth. Oh.
Well, it's funny.
He hates that thought.
It's funny though. It's maybe not just a Malik Willis, but it's one of the reasons why I want the Broncos to dip their toes into it, the Trey Lance sweepstakes, just to kind of get a feel.
I wouldn't hate that either.
You know, well, I mean, and George Payton's been on record of being a Trey Lance fan, pretty much. And it certainly seems like with Sean Payton, he kind of like Lance too. So, so we got the Texans, right?
Yeah. Real quick side note again. I just can't help myself right now. I'm having a good time, guys. Sorry. Bawana, the limited picks are going to get solved when they trade both of their wide receivers. Just a thought. It should happen.
That's not happening.
It should happen. It may not, but it should if you were smart.
Going to happen.
Judy is not. If you can get a first round for Judy, you move that in a heartbeat because he's not something special that you can't get in the next year's draft moving forward. So,
moving on.
Get a third.
We're not talking Broncos tonight because they don't have a pick. Cam, you're up, buddy.
All right. So there are a lot of ways now that the Texans can certainly go. They went out and got Bryce Young with their first pick. I think in a perfect world, I'm going to go out and still do it as far as their selection. Because I still think that they're not going to mess around and, do the whole defensive thing. But I still feel like this is going to end up being the selection with pick 12. And I think that they're going to go out and
make it happen.
Jackson, Smith, and Jigba, the wide receiver from Ohio State. he's going to go to Houston. I will say he's a guy that sat out, probably due to the injuries and everything else. But like that Ohio State wide receiving core is just incredible. And it's amazing when you actually look at the wide receiving core and to think who's coming next year. That being Marvin Harrison Jr.
Could be the best wide receiver prospect that we've seen
Jamar Chase. I'd say
Jamar Chase is pretty good.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase is good. I'll give you that.
But I mean, still that was like last 3 years.
But he sat out a year, so I think people kind of forgot about him. That's why I went back a little further.
Yeah.
Cam, let me ask you this. In this situation, I think it's the perfect pick. Do you think there's benefit to them trading out of this spot, moving back, and getting a couple more picks due to the fact that I believe...
Well, it looks like you accidentally muted yourself on the...
Pinky keeps muting me. I don't understand it. I apologize. You stay muted, sir. I got this. Do you think with I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong or give me your insight, I believe the top end of this wide receiver class is slightly overrated. And there are some guys towards the bottom, and I'm going to sound like a homer, and I don't care, in a Trey Palmer, in a Mingo out of Ole Miss, that I believe are just as good as the top end of this talent, but are being moved back down to third, fourth round for reasons unbeknownst to me. Do you think it could be beneficial for Houston to trade back here and grab a receiver like one of those two guys a little bit later and add extra picks to bolster the overall roster?
I think when you've sucked as bad as Houston has, I think everything's on the table. Like, but I also will say that because they've sucked, you should probably stay put and, fill up, as much as you can as far as, both best player available and of course, with the draft needs, if you will. I'm actually kind of low key high on the entire wide receiving class, just as a whole. Because I do think that there are now, Grant, I do agree. I think there are really good wide receivers, later, guys like a Mark Landers and, Jalen Wyatt, if he can kind of even, come into the first a little bit. So that's why I kind of like prefaced it early on. Like it's possible you do see a run on wide receivers because of the fact maybe some teams do view it a little bit deeper or worse off than others, just because of the fact that, if they do view it worse off, then we may actually see, say, Jackson and Smith and Jigba as like the only wide receiver that gets taken in this, except for say like from picks 20 all the way down, which is probably where you're going to see, teams like, I don't know, like some of those other teams like maybe go after wide receiver or something like that. So maybe like, the Chargers going after wide receiver to kind of look at stuff with like post Keenan Allen. So I mean, like there's certainly like ways that you can do about it. But yeah, no, certainly there are other guys, Trey Palmer, Jaden Reed. There are definitely other options. Marvin Mims was the guy that was mentioned by Zay Flowers. Frankly, I think Zay Flowers is a guy that is going to sneak into the first round, if not be the first round pick. And frankly,
I like Flowers over Addison. Honestly, I like Flowers over Addison.
I do too, actually. And I like Addison.
So, Boggins, well played, good sir. Appreciate you joining us with your knowledge as is. Jump in at any time, my guy. Andy, how are you thinking on that wide receiver, just out of curiosity?
I think with wide receivers, going through, I do think Smith and Jigma is going to be your best because he's a guy that's a guaranteed route runner, and he doesn't have the speed of Wyatt or Flowers or Addison, but he's proven himself that no matter what defense is thrown against him, he still has big games. So those other guys had games where corners took them out from time to time, but Smith and Jigma, he didn't. He always showed up. He always made his plays. So at this point in time, like you're saying, like I was telling Pink earlier because, there's all these rumors about the Chiefs trading up to 18 or all kinds of stuff. And Smith would be the sexiest one for me because he's a commodity we don't have. We have all these trick guys. We have all these situational guys and speed guys like Sky Moore, who I was never big on. But we've got that. But we don't have that guy that runs that dirty 10 and out or the 15 curl, or he's going to be open. And I think any route running receiver we get is going to look amazing because Mahomes is now going to have to throw the ball to whoever's open the quickest. And Andy Reid still loves those slow developing plays down the field. And Mahomes is tired of getting hit because of our O-line. So he's going to be throwing slants faster than he normally would. So, and then especially too, if we're trying to convert a right tackle into a left tackle or draft a rookie tackle and expect him to be able to block the blind side. So, I mean, there's a lot of ifs there, but right now, I mean, there's a lot of explosive talent that I think if you take a Zay Flowers, I mean, Andy Reid could take these guys and make them blow up because of what he runs. But to go into, let's say, a tight, the Texans offense, who's very kind of vanilla when it comes to their wide receiver routes, Smith and Jigma is by far the best. I mean, they're not going to find someone that's going to do what they want and be open when they need him to be. I mean, it's going to be a guarantee. He cuts, there it is. So,
well, let's be honest. Houston's going to look a lot different. They've got a guy who's from the Shanahan tree and D'Amico Ryan. While he might be on the defensive side of the ball, it's not going to look the same as it has in the past. He's going to have a certain want and need that he wants to see from that offensive side of the ball that's going to be a lot different than what they've had. So appreciate all the thoughts, guys. I love it. Pinky, do me a favor. Pull up the offensive lineman for me.
I mean, you just tell me who you want and we'll go get him.
Just pull up the offensive lineman. Can you not do that? Are you not able to pull up just offensive linemen?
Sure, he can.
I probably could if I knew this a little bit better, but I don't.
Oh, okay.
So tell me who you want, and I'll go get him.
So basically, I was going to say, basically how it goes, Pinky, is you scroll up, you select the position that says offensive line, like offensive tackle, and like that. That's kind of like how it goes.
Yeah.
See?
Well, okay.
This guy right here. This is why he's always invited.
But he could also just tell me who he wants.
I want to show something here. Is the idea. I want to show something. The offensive line is a lot deeper than I think people realize.
Oh yeah.
Ransky's my guy. I think Paris is amazing. But you've got two dudes sitting out here right now, and Broderick Jones and Darnell Wright, who I think are top level tackles. They can move inside if you need them to. They could play right or left. I fully believe that from either one of them. I think maybe both might be better suited on the right side than the left side.
But I do believe Green Bay, if they're smart, is not going to go tight end. They're going to bolster that offensive line. They're going to allow Love to have a little bit more protection. They're going to allow that run game to be a little bit stronger. And based on what I saw last year, I think they should go ahead and grab Broderick Jones and allow that offense to be just a little bit more secure in what they want to accomplish.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. New England Patriots, let's be honest, nobody knows what the hell they're going to do.
It's true. They could surprise us all.
There's a guy sticking out right now. It's Nolan Smith from Georgia. They like pass rush. He would help out. Done.
Great breakdown, Pinky.
Andy, you're up.
All right. Now at 15, maybe I use that date. It was Green Bay, or do they have both?
No, the Jets have.
Oh, it's the Jets.
So the 15th. Okay. So that's where for the Jets going down on here, that's where I was looking at it is the Jets. Interesting for me is if the Jets have a chance. I mean, I know they brought over Mercedes Lewis, right, because of Rodgers. Didn't
they have Uzma?
They have Uzma, Lewis. Yep. So that's where I was like, that's a big position. They don't have anyone that really stands out, but I think at this point in time, there's too many other needs. This is where I would say they would take the best available offensive lineman because they have to give Rodgers the time because he's got weapons now for days. I mean, he's just got guys that's insane. So it goes between Wright and Harrison. And I like Wright, I think, will be just a lot better. Harrison's probably going to follow the Chiefs, but I'm like,
done.
Yeah, I go Wright.
Pinky, we're doing good on time, baby. We're doing good.
I have to go.
We're okay. We're only 49 minutes in. That's it. We're only 49 minutes into the draft, baby. We're good.
So
Pinky's already thinking about being in Kansas City. Like he's getting on the plane as soon as this is over. Like easy, my guy.
It's gonna be a good time. They love Pinky in Kansas City. I've told this story before, but after getting like treated poorly at the Broncos games for so many years, I wanted Pinky to feel what it's like to be just like crapped on and everybody be mean. No, the meanest thing I heard to Pinky was when the Broncos took the field, the Chiefs fans yelled, "Average. Don't worry, you'll turn it around next year." I was like, this is BS. This is so crap. I was like, this is just junk. And everybody's like high-fiving Pinky because he's giving them tips on what to make bets. Everybody's like, dude, this guy's amazing.
To be fair, when I went to the bathroom, I did have a Chiefs fan tell me to go fuck myself. Now, he was like
zip up your zipper.
So he had definitely had some trauma done to him by Elway and just that the Chiefs sucked for like 50 years. So we'll give that
a lot of trauma.
Andy, if Pinky wins a Sacco again, we should go ahead and allow him to truly feel what it means to be shit on, and we'll put him in red and take him to Boulder. And then he'll really understand what it means to be just absolutely annihilated and see how
just hackled. Yeah, that will.
Well, red's not my color.
So. I don't care what your color is. If you're the Sacco, you don't have a choice, my guy.
I'm never the Sacco.
I think I've heard otherwise.
There is a group of guys who would argue that right there.
Unfortunately, Cam has to draft for the Redskins.
No, unfortunately, there's new ownership. This is a rebirth. This is hope springs eternal. This is a golden opportunity.
So first off, it's not the Redskins, it's the Commanders.
Oh, we put money in a jar, Cam, so it's okay. We put money in a jar. But there's a lot of ways that that they can certainly go with it. But I feel like this is a case where they're probably going to go corner, and based on where things are certainly going. They are either going to piss off the Pittsburgh Steelers faithful, or they're going to draft Deonte Banks. In doing so, I think I'm probably going to piss off the Pittsburgh Steelers fan base. Do it, Cam.
And go out and get Joey Porter Jr., the 6'2" corner from Penn State. So I've got nothing against Banks. I just I just think that with the way Porter is, and obviously he fits the current mold of where things are going. So I love you, Boggins.
I don't think you can go wrong with almost any player. The Commanders are pretty weak in multiple positions. So
I don't know about weak, but
their D line's good.
You know what I will say? That could be a sneaky play here. Would be Cansey. They seem to love that D line, and I think Cansey is a mold of Donald
next to Cam Hayward.
Yeah, I could see that being a sneaky guy there with Young and some of those other dudes they got going on. But I love Porter. I love Banks. I think they're both great talents. So there's definitely some movement and some options here.
And you really couldn't not have gone wrong with anyone. I went with Porter. Just he fits that mold. Like he fits the mold of like what,
I like it.
What we're going for.
I like it. So I get the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, buddy.
So here's the problem with Pittsburgh. I'm a big fan of BPA, Boggins. Big fan. Big fan of BPA. And what Pittsburgh really needs, they'd be reaching for at the offensive line right now. I feel like that would be a little bit of a reach right now at this point. So you start looking at best available. Pinky, if you could scroll to the top for us, that'd be appreciated. And best available obviously is Bijan, but you've got Najee. You're not doing that. Next best available, you could look at one of the tight ends. You could look at Meyer. You could look at Kincaid. But they've got Freiermuth, who I think is a very solid, above average tight end. You're not doing that either. You could then start thinking about defense. Pittsburgh is known for their defense. Mike Tomlin is a hard-nosed, we're going to run you into the ground kind of coach. I love Kancey here. Staying in Pittsburgh, kind of the same mold as the guy right across the same stadium, right across the stadium in the other locker room. They went with the quarterback last year. I think they go with the D tackle here. And I'm going to go Kancey, and I don't think you can be mad about that in any shape, way, or form.
Okay.
Cannot hate that at all.
But it's funny, I was gonna say, like, if you're talking about like the string of pissing other teams off, I was gonna say, so like, so Joey Porter goes to Washington and Kancey goes to Pittsburgh. Well, ideally, I think Kancey would have loved to have gone to Detroit.
Absolutely.
I mean, in this mode of like pissing other teams off, I see a trend here.
Boggins, I've heard that. I'm skeptical. What I saw from the Big 12 last year, what I saw from Oklahoma last year, I feel like there was some inconsistency there where I feel like it would be a slight reach. But I won't say it would be a bad pick. Maybe that's where Pittsburgh should have gone. But again, I think Kancey is in the mold of Donald, and I think grabbing him and letting that defense eat a little bit is hard to pass up.
Well, Detroit's on the clock, and I'm drafting for Detroit, which I'm high on the Lions. This is really hard. I really think they could get a tight end.
And pair him with Hawkinson.
Hawkinson.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
I totally forgot. That was stupid. I knew that too.
They don't use tight ends.
Right. That was stupid.
So I like
cancel me out. I'm gonna pour another drink. My bad.
If they use tight ends, I would draft them one.
Mute your mic.
So I'm just gonna go draft them. The next quarterback for the Detroit Lions.
Oh, I love this. If you're going there, hell yeah.
Yep.
I love that, Pinky.
I think Goff is more than capable. Can take the team for the next year and a half. Let Hooker get healthy. Let him get used to being a pro, and then you're off to the races.
I think honestly, if he doesn't tear his ACL, he's fighting for the top 3 quarterback in this draft. Some people are concerned about the age. I don't think it matters anymore in today's NFL. He's got a solid 12 years ahead of him. That could be a steal for sure.
All right, so Buccaneers.
It's a throwaway pick, Cam, so you don't have to be too concerned about it. They're going to suck regardless.
Andy's got this.
Oh, I'm sorry, Andy.
Yeah.
Throw it away. Not a big deal. You can't go wrong here. They're atrocious.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield is their starting quarterback. Let's just be honest here. They're going to be real bad.
Funniest thing is this is where I was going to have fun, and I was going to say Hooker.
Ooh, that would have been good. That would have been a smart pick for the Bucs.
Correct. For them to sit back and develop him, Hooker offers an upside that they just haven't had in a while. So for the be safe, and I think what they're going to do, because they've gone definitely vanilla, I think they've lost their ability to see outside the box. This is where I think they'll take Miles Murphy. I think they're going to go edge, just keep trying to win in the trenches and just hope it goes their way. Yeah, sure. Tampa Bay fans, it's got to be rough right now.
Sure.
It is going to be rough. All right. Cam, you got Seattle.
I do. Now, I will say, to continue the trend, this is actually where I was going to select Hendon Hooker.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I mean, learning from Gino, that's almost a mold right there. So agreed.
All right. Yeah. So they could definitely go a lot of different ways. Obviously, they went with Jalen Carter in the last one. Yeah. So I think we're kind of looking at let's see, looking at best player available. We're getting fun here. Let's see here.
Apparently, Boggins isn't on the bandwagon.
I don't know. Actually, for my sake, it wasn't necessarily like I'm a Hendon Hooker fan, but it's like I could see that as a logical fit, like, just as far as like having him, sit, if you will. All right.
Hey, we're all in the family, my guy. It's all love. It's all love.
Let's see. All right. We're gonna go.
You go ahead.
We're gonna go fun. So they went and got. We're gonna go. They went with Tariq Woolen last year, right?
Right.
The freaky corner. We're gonna go with Deontay Banks, the cornerback from Maryland. Allows them to go out and get another corner opposite, Woolen, and basically have a tandem for the future. Another athletic corner. He's at 6 feet tall, like Porter. He's he offers that range, and I think that like it would be fun to see like a tandem like that together. They also could have gone edge, but obviously they signed Draymond Jones. They have Jalen Carter now in the mix. So, kind of adding more to that secondary and beefing up that defense. So we're going to go with Deontay Banks to Seattle so that he can visit Boggins on a daily basis.
There you go. That was solid. I mean, damn. Banks falls there. Seattle is just thrilled beyond belief. Jalen Carter, Banks. I mean, damn. That's a steal and a half right there for that defense.
Yes. All right, Caleb, you're on the clock with the Chargers.
Look, let's be honest. The Chargers could go in many different directions. I think tight end and bolstering that position a little bit more and giving them a true weapon at the tight end position is definitely in play. I think they could go defense because their defense, let's be honest, has a ton of talent, but can't stay healthy or on the field. So you could go just about any defensive position. You could go wide receiver here, and you could start looking at replacing a Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, who also neither one can really truly stay on the field. Damn, you could even look at Bijan Robinson right here and go ahead and trade.
No.
Yep. Cam,
I do not. I do not want nightmare fuel.
You could trade Eckler, and you could go ahead and grab Bijan Robinson right here.
No.
But I think I'm going to surprise some people right here. Boggins, I'm not sure how you feel about this one, but I'm going to grab that offensive tackle from Oklahoma, and I'm going to give Herbert just a little bit more protection, a little bit more time in that pocket, and let him show his true skill.
I think they've already got those tackles taken care of. But
you move one of the tackles you have right now who haven't shown that much inside if you have to. You bolster that offensive line. You can never go long with the trenches if you believe it's a true talent.
The guy that replaced Slater played just fine.
Hey, I'm just saying, you can't go wrong with the trenches. You've got a phenom at the quarterback position. You do everything you can to give him opportunities. And let's be honest, when their talent is on the field, they're one of the most talented, absolutely most talented teams in the NFL. So what they really should be doing is drafting their medical staff and their training staff and not players. But that's not an option. So I'm going to go offensive line here for them and help that quarterback
Another
out
time,
a little bit.
Caleb was wrong. But that's okay. He's the GM. He's got to live with those mistakes. Oh,
My track record, I have a feeling, says a lot more than what Pinky's lying eyes do. I'm just saying.
I've got Baltimore. Ugh. Yuck.
We're going to go Hendon Hooker.
Quick side note, Nugs up 109-104, 28 seconds left. Just want to throw that out there for all my people.
We're not there yet. We were going to announce it when they win. All right.
I feel good right now. Maybe it's the whiskey talking.
Most of the time, Baltimore can't get wide receivers to sign with them.
They did this year.
Pay them. So we're just going to draft them so they don't have a choice.
I like this, Pinky.
Quentin Johnson
I like
from
this.
TCU. Come on down.
A true X. I like it.
Cheers.
Ah, my guy right there.
Pinky's pick brought to you by McAllen 12.
We live in the dream over here, people. We live in the dream.
Let's see. Minnesota. That means Andy's on the clock.
Yep. And for Minnesota, I think this is where we're going to see another wide receiver come off the board, because this is a team that they have to find better trick players. They have to find guys that they can scheme to add, just take away. So Jefferson's phenomenal. He's doing great. They've got their tight end now. This is where I think Zay Flowers will go. And I think this is why the Chiefs are doing everything they can to try and trade up, because Zay Flowers will be an exceptional talent that, if they add, will give them huge versatility that they've not had for a little bit. So
I love it. And I know there's people who say Addison is the second wide receiver off the board, but and Cam, you can back this up. He played in a Whipple offense, which was extremely pass heavy, which gives a ton of opportunity to the top receiver. I feel like he had a down year with Riley and Williams at USC, which should have actually been a little bit better than what it was. And I'm not seeing an X receiver out of Addison. I'm seeing maybe a 2, more of a slot guy from Addison personally. I think Flowers has a higher upside, so I like him going off the board over Addison.
And if I remember right, he didn't test well at the combine. And I don't know if that's or it was the combine or pro day. I forget what it was. He didn't test all that great. But I mean, yeah. So I feel like just Zay Flowers just gives that much more like well-roundedness to his game than say an Addison. Like I truly have nothing against Addison.
Yeah.
But frankly, and this is not to selfishly talk up my boy again, but it's like, if you want a poor man's Jordan Addison, or even a better raw prospect of a Jordan Addison, go draft Trey Palmer. Like I really like that's kind of like
more size. I think there's actually way more talent. If he plays with Caleb Williams last year, I think you see way more from Trey Palmer than you do Addison. Personally,
speed is
yeah. So
Boggins, quick question, hit us up here. Do you feel Addison is overrated? I'd love to know your thoughts there, my guy.
So with the Jacksonville Jaguars, the team that beat the Los Angeles Chargers, coming back.
picking at 24.
I thought Pinky was about to give me a little prop there, but apparently I was wrong.
What?
Calling out the Jaguars last year.
He did.
I already ate that crow. Okay.
Yep.
I already said I was wrong. You were right.
Cheers, my guy.
It hurts.
So there's a lot of ways that they can certainly go with this. They can make their entire offense fun and go tight end here and draft the first tight end off the board. They can, and maybe go with the route of, past Evan Ingram, if they will, even despite the franchise tag. Or they can even make their backfield even more explosive and going out and getting Bijan Robinson with ETN. They could certainly do that.
There ain't enough touches there. ETN's a beast.
But instead we are going to go out and actually get, at this point, the best edge rusher in the draft and still go with more pressure and go out and get a Miles Murphy from Clemson.
Miles Murphy's already been drafted, my bro.
Has he?
He went to Tampa Bay Bucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we're gonna go with Lucas Van Ness.
That's where I thought you were going. But yeah.
No, Miles Murphy, Lucas Van Ness, they all sound the same.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was hoping he would fall.
It's sports nonsense and whiskey, guys. Let's just, okay? There's three things there in the title. There's a reason for it. I actually love Lucas Van Ness. If you watched Iowa at all last year, there was a non-existent offense. There was a head coach that should be losing his job and somehow is going to just continue to keep it for God knows what reason. And then there was an insane defense. And Lucas Van Ness was leading the way. And I think actually he's a phenomenal talent. And honestly, I'll say he might be slightly underrated because he played for Iowa rather than in Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State. So I think he's a phenomenal talent who people will not be mad about getting.
He actually reminds me similarly to another former Iowa player, edge rusher, who got drafted by the Buffalo Bills, being AJ Epinesa. Like, he reminds me of that same mold where people just
and he's shaking his head too. Yeah,
I liked him.
We're
solid though. They're nothing special.
Well, I won't necessarily agree with that. Like, there are definitely like some special things to their game. I mean, for Epinesa, like, go turn on the game against Nebraska with Adrian Martinez. I mean, he was like in the backfield consistently. So, but I mean,
we're not trying. I promise you, this is honestly what we're trying to do. We do believe that these are the best options for the teams. I don't think Dallas should take Bijan, but we're about to get there and we'll see what happens. Quick side note, Cam. I actually think Lucas Van Ness has shades of a Max Crosby.
That's high praise. That is some definite high praise. Yeah. So, I mean, he's definitely got a lot to his game. And I think that you add him to that kind of mix with the Trayvon Walker, who they drafted. I mean, that defensive line is going to end up being just absolutely stacked. And so, yeah. So just overall, I mean, with what he had at Iowa, I mean, you say head coach, I say offensive coordinator, and also the fact that they had a quarterback who could not even start in the USFL or even the XFL. I mean, Spencer Petras was like, I don't know what the definition of atrocious is, but but like Spencer Petras was like worse than atrocious. Like it was bad. Like, yeah.
It was bad, no doubt.
Caleb, you've got the Giants, my man.
I'm going to be honest. I've talked about this wide receiver class. I think the top end is ranked way above where they should be. I do believe a Trey Palmer. I do believe a Mingo are just as good as an Addison, a Flowers, a Quentin Johnson. I think you need to get weapons for the Giants. And if we're being smart, as I would like to think I can be as a GM, the two guys I just mentioned, along with some others that Cam mentioned earlier, they will be available later in the draft. And thank you. The Nuggets won. They're moving on to the second round. I said it before. They're going to have a nice little setup with Phoenix. Side note, we're moving on from the draft. We're going straight into Nuggets talk. We're done with the draft. No, I'm just kidding. Congratulations to the Nuggets. We love you guys. Way to make some noise. You got to get some weapons here. I don't personally like the receivers sitting at this position. I do like a couple of the tight ends that are sitting here. And I think 2 tight end sets are not run enough in the NFL. I think Saquon's going to be back. I do believe that they have some sneaky receivers that they can grab later in the draft to bolster that offensive side. I personally like Kincaid. A lot of people are saying there's some upside there. I don't disagree with that, but I think it'd be hard-pressed to take Kincaid over Meyer. And I think it'd be nasty to see Meyer and Waller with that running game, with who I think is an up-and-coming Daniel Jones, with that head coach, I'm going Meyer here.
Respect it. I mean, yeah. And even if you
Waller was there.
even
Yeah,
if you
buddy.
even if you went Kincaid, I don't necessarily see the point of the Kincaid pick, because especially with Waller there now, it's like there's really no point with Kincaid in the mix, and so yeah, there's really just no point. I mean, you could have gone, I guess, for the sexy rising pick of Darnell Washington, but I mean, Mayer,
I thought about Washington simply because his blocking game is nasty, but I think Meyer's blocking game is just as good, maybe even underrated compared to Washington. And I think Meyer's got a little bit more, let's call it Jason Witten in him, where he has ability to get open or catch the ball even if maybe he's not open. And I think the two tight end set is drastically underrated in the NFL. And if people don't believe me, and I hate bringing his name up because of what he did off the field, but go look at what Hernandez and Gronk did for the Pats when they were rolling. You put a stellar running back, one of the top 3 running backs in the league with Barkley behind that, with a slightly underrated offensive line, and Daniel Jones on the come up with Dayball. I think that could be some serious damage there, is my thought process.
I'm not going to waste any time. It's going to be Cowboys take Bijan Robinson. He's from Texas.
Boggins, I lied. It happened. I lied. I think it's an awful pick. No, it's not awful. It's not awful. Bijan is a generational talent.
Look, do you really want to rely on Tony Pollard
No,
by himself?
I definitely don't. And let's be honest. If this falls to Dallas this way and they don't take Bijan, it's an epic fail for Dallas in the draft yet again.
Yeah.
now, on a serious note, Bijan, now that he's off the board, he's not going to be taken by the Cowboys here. I would imagine he's going to be taken much, much higher, probably. And also, if you're the Cowboys and you don't take Bijan Robinson, it's not the end of the world. You could literally take a running back later, because we all know the running back logic of.
It's not. But Jerry Jones cares more about selling tickets than he does winning games.
He also drafts weird player names. What was he last year? He drafted what was it? Was it Strange or something? Yeah.
No. That was he drafted Terrell
Who was
Smith.
it? Yeah. Somebody again wasn't supposed to go for a while.
Paul Strange went to the New England Patriots.
It still was weird though. It was it was
I think it was
pretty
Terrell
weird.
Smith. And he played left tackle. He actually played pretty good.
So
He's on the clock. Andy's on the clock with Buffalo. This is a hard one.
Buffalo again, with now Robinson being off the board, because that would have been the easiest thing if he would have gone to Buffalo. That would have been huge. I mean, as a Chiefs fan, that would have been over. I mean, that would be that's too much. I mean, that's just too much. We struggled. I mean, let's be honest. If it wasn't for the Bills being the most snake-bitten team in the NFL, they should have just ran for a very long time. But everything bad that could happen did happen to them. So I don't know what it is, if it's just the coaching fell apart, but I've always liked their coach, or if the players fell apart. I don't know what it is, but somehow that team just doesn't play the way they should. Like the Charger. I don't know if the Bills are at that level yet, but it's close. Like, it is really close, because on paper, there's no way they don't beat the Chiefs every year. I don't get it. I love my Chiefs. I think they're awesome, but we can't stack up to what they offer, but we beat them. So I don't know the rhyme or reason to it. But this is where I think there's a couple of things. With Brian Branch still being on the board, I think this would be a really good way for them to shore up the secondary, especially against who they want to beat. They want to beat the passing teams because they don't want to lose to the Bengals. They don't want to lose to the Chiefs. Branch gives them that. But I also see a lot of it is we saw last year too. Allen broke down. I mean, what do you say against every quarterback, right? You hit him and you get him out of the pocket and you make him uncomfortable. Well, when Allen got uncomfortable, he fell apart, which every quarterback does, because after you get hit a lot, everybody breaks. So this is where I also could see the best offensive lineman right now, I'd say, is Osiris Torrance from Florida. I really like him in the middle which would give him more of a pocket that he could feel comfortable in. And when Allen feels comfortable, he's scary. And when he runs because he wants to, I mean, God, we watched him crush the Chiefs with that, which was very disheartening when he was getting first downs like crazy. So I would say as of now, they're going to try to, I mean, they bought their team. They've got to go right now. I would say Torrance. Osiris Torrance is who I would say would be their pick to really give Allen that confidence to go back to being that swagger guy that just crushes it.
I mean, if you really are, you put it best, but it's like if you're nitpicking Buffalo, like it's really the offensive line as far as like the direction they probably would have to go. And interior, even I mean they could go wide receiver if they wanted to, but I mean, yeah. So, but I mean, if you're really in the mode of just really wanting to protect Josh Allen and keep him more upright and not necessarily have him be running the football as often as he can, that interior just offensive line help in general is El Primo.
I like that. I think there's a guy who could be sneaky here for the Buffalo Bills. I think Torrance is a great pick, especially from the inside out. But there's a guy here sitting there from, as much as I hate to say it, OSU, baby Thanos, sitting out there in DeJuan Jones, who also could be a very realistic, scary pick there for the Bills. So I like that. I like that thought.
Yeah. So now we come to the Cincinnati Bengals, the other team that continues to give the Kansas City Chiefs fits.
No doubt.
In the playoffs, and frankly, might actually be, maybe the best quarterback matchup between Brady and Manning, if you will, like the reincarnation. So Burrow and Mahomes. Yeah,
as Carson Palmer said, he believes is better than Mahomes.
Well, he's biased, and I mean, it's understandable.
Only a little bit. Only a little bit.
I feel like there's a lot of fun ways that they can certainly go with this. And selfishly, I would love to go with Jahmyr Gibbs alongside of.
That might be a need, actually.
Jahmyr Gibbs alongside of a Joe Mixon. But they also did lose Hayden Hurst, and that tight end position is also looking a little bit thin, just a little bit. And so if you're truly looking at that tight end position, Dalton Kincaid, granted, obviously Boggin said in the chat, but that was like one that I've been eyeballing for like a while with that Cincinnati Bengals team. But I mean, I admittedly, I will say that Jahmyr Gibbs to the Bengals is a really, really fun fit. Cause I do think that it's certainly one,
Cody, my guy.
He's there, but it's one that he's also recovering from injury.
That's the kicker, Cam, and I will agree with you there. Dude can't stay on the field, unfortunately. Talent's all there, but can't stay on the field.
Talent is there. And also, I mean, Irv Smith might also kind of fall within that line of he's a little bit more of the balanced tight end than a Kincaid. Kincaid will offer more in the passing game, and Irv Smith will offer, the run blocking, and he'll contribute in the passing game as, and somewhat too. But yeah,
let me throw this out there and ask you guys. How do we really feel about Cincy's offensive line? I know it rebuilt, but did it not still have issues last year?
Chiefs prove that. Yeah. Chris Jones.
So, sneaky pick here.
Like 2 of their starters hurt for that playoff.
They did. So, it wouldn't surprise me if I saw Cincy go offensive line here. But, if Kincaid falls to them, I think that seems like the obvious choice. So I like that, Cam.
Well, and it's funny.
Cam's a smart guy. There's a reason he's on this show. He's wearing a proper hat.
I don't speak nonsense, except for maybe, like.
You better if you're on this show, God damn it.
But I will say, if we're talking tight end, because I went with Kincaid, Darnell Washington would have made a lot of sense here. as far as he offers you possibly a high ceiling, but truly an extra offensive line help, if you will.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more on that. He could potentially have the most upside out of all the tight ends in this draft, based on athleticism and ability that just wasn't shown at Georgia for a numerous amount of reasons. But that could be a sneaky pick there as well, Cam. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
We going Saints?
So Kincaid,
Yeah, he wants Kincaid. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But what they could do with Kincaid flexing him out is just insane because the mix.
Bowers is the best tight end in Georgia.
Yeah.
It's a huge mismatch.
Is he though?
He is.
Is he though?
Bowers is.
From the guy who doesn't watch any college football. Let's just keep that in mind, people.
I've seen Bowers multiple times.
But yeah, Brock Bowers already said he's waiting for Kansas City. Pinky and I've already talked about this. Brock Bowers is sitting out.
Saints are on the clock. Would anybody argue with me that they could use anything and everything?
They could.
Let's scroll up to the top, Pinky. Because I think they need offensive help, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that's where they truly need help. Let's be honest. Michael Thomas is a bust. As far as once Drew Brees is gone, he is not going to do anything. He doesn't have breakaway speed. He doesn't have leaping ability. He doesn't necessarily have a catch radius. What he does have is great hands. And Drew Brees is known for being arguably the most accurate passer in NFL history. That's why Michael Thomas succeeded, in my own personal opinion. I also don't think he's going to be on the field next year more than 3 or 4 games. So you're left with Chris Olave. I think Jawan Johnson was a slight breakout last year, and he can be a weapon going forward. I think Alvin Kamara is going to miss the entire season, personally, based on his legal issues. So that brings Jamar into the fold here. But I'm going to go with a strength on strength here, which I believe is the Saints defense. And I believe they've been one of the most underrated, consistent defenses in the league over the last, let's say, decade. And I'm going to go with a guy who could arguably be the best pass rusher in this draft and is incredibly underrated, I believe, and has a huge upside. And I'm going to go maybe a little outside the box, which is kind of what I've done this whole draft because I'm really intelligent. I'm going to go with Will McDonald for the Saints here.
Old McDonald. Uh-oh.
Boggins fan.
I don't disagree. I think they could be slightly underrated, Boggins. I really do.
Who has a better roster?
The Saints.
The Saints.
I think their defense is really strong. I think this only adds to it. I think Derek Carr is going to produce more so than what they got from their quarterback position last year. I think Olave is a beast. So you could be right. But I think they're going to struggle on offense a little bit. But that defense will carry them, and I think adding to that is a huge get for them personally.
That is not bad.
Pinky, what are you doing here for the Eagles with their second first-round pick, which they shouldn't even have because the Saints are dumb as hell?
Well, it's not that hard. They're just going to go Jamar Gibbs.
Oh, love it. Oh, my God, that is a steal right here. Pinky with the steal of the – cheers, my guy. Steal the draft right there as far as I'm concerned.
But again, we talk about the Eagles. They literally went to the Super Bowl, and they have 2 first-round picks. Like, could you not have scripted
exactly.
A better first round for them? I mean, yeah. So
now, this ruins my thoughts of them getting Derrick Henry, but let's be honest. I'd probably rather have Jamar Gibbs and not give up anything than have Derrick Henry.
If they get Derrick Henry, I'm awesome with that. But in this draft, they don't have Derrick Henry yet.
Pinky, you got a fan, my guy. Them lion eyes are doing you solid tonight.
But,
I take all comers.
I will say, though, say this draft does go according to plan. If it goes according to plan, we're submitting this, for, winning a prize because it was the perfect bracket, if you will, of picks. But say it actually goes according to this, and they don't get Bijan with the pick that they did have, and they had their eye on Gibbs. I could see them trading up and getting Gibbs if they had their eye on him. Now,
let's be honest, and I don't know if you guys have heard this or not, but there's a former NFL running back who knows a little bit about the position in MJD, Maurice Jones-Drew, who actually has ranked Gibbs above Bijan as far as his draft board. Now, people are going to call that crazy, and so be it. There's examples that have been floating around here recently of a I'm going to draw a blank on his name, and I apologize. Merrill Hodge, who looked at Stephen A. Smith and certain Skip Bayless back in the day and told them they were flat out crazy for saying Johnny Manziel would be successful. The draft is littered with these situations. So I wouldn't get too crazy and I wouldn't go too insane in saying that MJD is out of his mind. I think there's reasons why he's done such. And I think if Philadelphia gets this pick here, there's a good case to argue that they got the steal of the draft.
Oh,
Gibbs is
sure.
insane.
Yeah. I mean, not to, talk.
Well done, my guy.
Not to talk a little bit about the Broncos, though. It's just like, had the Broncos had a first-round pick, and Sean Payton obviously there, that's literally the guy that should be a Denver Bronco, just in the sense that when you watch him, he is literally Alvin Kamara. When you watch
Absolutely.
him. And, when you put an Alvin Kamara in a Sean Payton offense, we all know, how well that, yeah. So,
well, and then you have, let's be honest, going that route and what if, Cam, you have a Javonte Williams coming back healthy. That's a better version of a Mark Ingram. So you run a Alvin Kamara lookalike and a better version of Mark Ingram in a Sean Payton offense. That's a scary thought.
Yeah. But since we're in the realist phase and this running back class, there are other options out there that, the Broncos can decide to draft since they don't have a first.
Sure. Andy, if you could do us the honor of closing us out and selecting what your Chiefs should do in the first round, we would greatly appreciate it, sir.
Yep. I think at this point in time, Kansas City has completely boxed themselves into a corner, and they're going to have to take the tackle available, and that's, baby Thanos DeJuan Jones. I mean, there's no way. I think they're out of it. Do I love Uzma? Yeah. I'd love him if we got him. Mazzie Smith. Those are guys that'd be so sexy if we could. Kansas City doesn't do a lot of sexy things on defense. It's been a while since we drafted Chris Jones. But yeah, I think that's exactly what we'll do. And we 100% need it. And then he'll battle out Juwan Taylor, see who's the best.
Is there a position for you that's with the Kansas City Chiefs that's that you think could be on the radar? Because I know that people have been mocking wide receiver to them. It seems like forever.
They need it.
Yep.
Yeah. So why not wide receiver, I guess?
Well, right
because
now,
Mingo and Palmer are available in the third.
I think, yeah, because the guy that they brought in was Jalen Hyatt. They already brought him in, and they do like him. And he is, like Zay Flowers, he did really good in Tennessee. He played, he was a great deep ball stretch guy. But the problem is with Kansas City, our deep ball stretch guys, just like you watch MVS last year, were just dummy routes. We ran them just to run off kind of the defense. So getting a rookie doing that, I don't mind so much. Paying MVS the money we did, I thought was kind of silly. But he did show up one game, so I can't say anything about that. And the one game he showed up, he was awesome. But that's where I was going to say, Kansas City, we have this mold where we think we could get a receiver, but we always get the same receiver, under 6 feet, runs a 4.3. And Andy Reid is very one-dimensional, and that's where, I've been a Chiefs fan long enough to remember when Andy Reid lost play calling the first 3 or 4 seasons, where they had to take play calling from him because he was getting too goofy. But then, we changed things up enough that we have it. I think the biggest thing about the Chiefs, like I told Pinky this the other day. So when we first beat the 49ers, Chiefs offense was so phenomenal. It couldn't be stopped. Well, the next season they did. They really, really slowed us down. And then we go against the Bucs and we got humiliated. And then we had to change it all up again. So then we lose to the Bengals after the 2 high safeties was throwing us off and we got shut down. Then we switched it all up. This season we did well. So if the NFL is going to follow what it's already done, this year is going to be a huge struggle for the Chiefs if we think we can do what we did last year and win again. So we have to do something to break the mold. Why haven't we looked at getting guys to back up Kelsey? You know, the Broncos were giving up Noah Fant pretty easy. Noah Fant would have been amazing with Andy Reid, but we didn't. Albert O would have been phenomenal. Even Greg Dulcich. Everybody the Broncos have drafted at tight end for the last couple of years would have killed and filled a huge hole for Kansas City. Imagine if we ran 2 tight end sets and we had a guy like any of the guys you drafted opposite of Kelsey. Oh, well, that just makes too much sense to be good. Oh, it's not like Pacheco would have been great if we had a double tight end set with a single back, and then we start flexing out our tight ends and you don't know where we're pulling. It's just, there's all kinds of things, but we don't do that. So those things I'd say for Kansas City, I still believe they're holding out. Brett Veach is now doing a good job of being more modest with his contracts, where before Kansas City's just like, yeah, we'll pay Hitchens. You want your money? We'll pay you. We had a lot of bad contracts, and I think he's now doing a good job. Like Orlando Brown, we need to let go. We should not have.
Let's be honest. You guys stole Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
When that contract first came out and everybody goes, $500 million, what the? Oh, my God. And now you look at it and you go, oh, my God, that's actually the steal of the century, arguably, for what is considered the best quarterback in the league. So grabbing a baby Thanos. Well, yeah, obviously, look, Pinky, if you've watched this before, you're going to know. I think numbers mean nothing when it comes to salary cap, and you can manipulate those any shape, way, or form you want to. But the Patrick Mahomes deal is so team-friendly, it's insane. And you taking Thanos here, baby Thanos, and protecting that asset, he's proved that it really doesn't matter what's around him. He's going to make magic happen. So I think that could be a steal at the end of the first round for you guys, in all honesty.
Yeah. And I think second round, like we talked about, there's going to be a lot of sneaky talent that is available. The sad thing is, if Kansas City doesn't address the defense until the 3rd or 4th rounds, we're rolling. Yeah. Last year we did start 3 guys that were 7th round picks.
I'll be honest. I love the Thanos pick. I was a little surprised you left Branch on the board here.
Yeah. Well, so Reed has not been what we were hoping to be, but he wasn't going to come in and be another Tyrann Mathieu. It just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
They're still hoping. Oh man, I hate when I get retarded. I can't remember names. The guy we drafted last year that we got from, was it the Bears, Cincy Bears, the hard-hitting safety, would have played better in the box, but he didn't take off as quick as he did. That's why Juwan Thornhill and Reed played way more. So we ran 2 free safeties versus running a free safety, strong safety. So Spags' defense, I hate to say it, it's slowly becoming the Bob Sutton of the Chiefs. We are staying very formulaic to what we do and hoping that we just stop teams. And you guys have seen it when teams show us stuff that we can't stop. We just say, hey, offense, can you put up 40 points to win? Can you do it? And with, Mahomes, it's 50-50 if he can. But that's not going to always work. So
let's be honest, 50-50 is better than what the rest of the league has options for them. So you have that going for you. Final thoughts, Pinky.
Almost none of those picks are going to hit. So we're just going to be happy with what happened.
Cam.
It was fun. Obviously there were no trades, but it was fun kind of doing these exercises because, one, on the surface, they get you familiar with prospects. Like that's just the given thing, but then you start to kind of realize that, there's another team out there that's aside your favorite team. I'm getting smart ass right now. Anyway, but anyway, no.
Plug out for you.
Yeah.
You guys are doing your mock draft tomorrow with trades, right?
with trades, and I actually control what was it? We counted from 3, right? So so I was like the Cardinals and so on and so forth. So like, so instead of Indy and on, I'm the Cardinals and on this round. So yeah, so it'll be interesting to say the least. And we do and for a little spoiler, I will say we did some staging and stuff, and I will say that there is a trade that does happen in this draft. I'm telling you guys right now, there's a trade that does happen.
I like it. Andy, final thoughts for us.
Final thoughts. I mean, Caleb, funniest thing is you and I agree a lot on these football takes because we're both romantics. We both don't like staying to the formulaic and just being like, hey, it's going to be better next year. We'll get this thing we haven't done right better next year. So we like taking those risks, making changes and running different scenarios. I don't know why the Chiefs wouldn't look at someone like Malik Willis. Tell me Andy Reid couldn't come up with something that wouldn't work with him. So I like that sexy stuff on the same wave. Like, I still hope Kansas City gets a thumping running back. I've been holding out, get in the screen, but I've been holding out for that for years. I love pounding the rock, and we can't do it. We just can't. So when teams shut us down, it's bad. So overall thoughts, yeah, this was good. I mean, everything logically made sense. Now, will it happen? Dude, if it does, we'll have this on Pinky for years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, buddy.
Like, remember we
buddy.
Every pick. Not sure.
I love it. I'm going to say square peg round hole. I preach it continuously. I will continue to preach it. The NFL is notorious for trying to do a square peg round hole. They do not take advantage of the talent and formulating an offense or a defense around what's available to them. They try to force it upon the talent rather than letting the talent come to them. I will say, big fan of BPA. I don't like drafting for a need. Draft the best player available and allow your roster to grow from there. I will end with check out mainly Broncos tomorrow. The guys, they know what they're talking about. They give a lot of great insight. Cam is my boy. He's wearing a Nebraska hat. Plain and simple, I'm going to follow him. Mr. Boggins joined the chat tonight. For those of you that saw, check out the BPA podcast. The dudes give a lot of great insight. They know what they're talking about. They run down a lot of different options when it comes to evaluating talent. And on that note, this is something we love doing. And like we said at the beginning, this is what we believe the team should do, not what they're going to do. And we don't do the trade simply because when you start talking about the calculations of what a pick costs to trade it and where it's traded to, is not something we want to go through the process of explaining and evaluating. But mainly Broncos apparently are going to take that on themselves, so check it out because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Now, it's
only
one.
Cherish that time you have with your loved ones, your friends. The Nuggets advanced, so we are stoked right now. And we appreciate all the love and support. You guys, it means the world to us. So thank you for everything you guys say and do with us. We're always available to chat it up. It's something we enjoy and we love. Thank you for Andy and Cam for participating in our little experiment here this evening. We're out. Wait for Thursday.
I hit the wrong button.
Yeah, what did you do, bro?
It still says live in the
Close it out on the
it's still live because it's Caleb.
Here.
Unsung narrative, young, dumb American, arrogant, throwing fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic.